And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Farrell versus Monaco. Step forward, please.
Retired engineer Tom Farrell is suing his daughter's former guardian, property manager Victoria Monaco, for the return of money given towards child care expenses. Victoria is countersuing for unpaid rent and additional expenses.
Mr. and Mrs. Farrell, I assume this is your daughter. Tell me your first name.
Marcy.
Marcy. Stand up next to your folks. Marcy, I have a couple of questions for you.
Yes.
How old are you?
15.
Well, Marcy was going through a difficult teenage period. And according to your complaint, after several failed attempts at other arrangements, you found the defendant who indicated she was prepared to let Marcy live with her. The arrangement was that she would be paid $50 a week. You advanced her $1,000. Marcy stayed how many weeks?
I stayed about 2 weeks before I went to a residence.
To a residence?
Residential. It's a part of my program.
Stayed 2 weeks, and you want the rest of your money back. That's what the case is about.
Yeah.
Ms. Monaco says that, yes, you advanced her the $1,000, but during the time that your daughter was with her for that 2-week period, she spent a heck of a lot more than $1,000, and she's counterclaiming for $1,600 for a variety of things. How did you find Miss Monaco?
We met about 4 years ago. We lived in the same area. Our children went to school together.
This is her son?
Yes.
So the kids were friendly?
Correct.
Okay.
So when the time came, Marcy, I think, initially spoke with the defendant about staying with her. They'd always gotten along well together. We'd always gotten along well together. I met with Vicki. We talked about it. We agreed on $50 a week for housing and food. She indicated that was more than enough. My wife and I would pay for all other expenses, schooling, education, transportation, medical, whatever else needed. That was only for food and housing. After the 2-week period, things weren't working out. Marcy had to go to residence, which is part of the EDIP program that she's in through the juvenile justice system. So when it was time to come back, the defendant was in the arrangements of moving her household, looking for a new place to live. She said at the time that the reason for that was she had an abusive relationship with her boyfriend, trying to get away from him, needed some front money to get on with her life. So we were willing to advance her the $1,000 so that she could get a head start, get out of there and all that. The 2 weeks that Marcy was there, we'd already paid her that $100 for. We were even at that point in time.
So you'd already given her the $100 for the 2 weeks, and this was $1,000, an advance of $1,000.
Was an advance for, after she got moved into the new home, everything was settled there. She was going to let us know when that was. We were going to get Marcy moved back over there and start life as we hoped would be a good situation. And then we never heard from her.
Now, they paid you the $100 pursuant to agreement, $50 a week for the time that Marcy was with you, and they advanced you $1,000. Why shouldn't they get it back?
Your Honor, they did not give me $100. And the $1,000 that he did give me that I received was for first, last, and security to move into a home. So Tom and Barbara have not given me anything towards taking care of Marcy.
Just 1 second. How many people moved into your new home?
Well, there was myself, my son Marco, and my boyfriend. He would come and go.
Well, then why in the world would they? You have 2 adults and your child. Why in the world are they responsible for your first, last, and security?
They're not responsible for all of it.
So why don't you give them their $1,000 back?
Your Honor, they were going to pay for half of it.
What?
It cost $2,700 to move in.
Shh, listen to me. Why would they pay anything towards your moving in to a new residence with yourself, a very tall, able-bodied boyfriend who wears a lot of gold jewelry, and your 13-year-old son? Miss Monaco, you explain that to me.
Marcy was with me in the home.
So what?
Well, he agreed to pay and help me in a better home, which he states right in here.
Well, you show me where he agreed to pay for
well, I can show
first,
you where...
last, and security.
No, it's not stated like that. It's stated for a better home.
Let me see it. This says, after a week of negotiating, we met at Wachovia Bank on 5504 and signed a contract for a prepayment of child care for our daughter so the defendant could move into a better home. So what he's saying here is he agreed to give you $1,000 advance because you needed cash to move into this new home, and that money would be offset for the $50 a week that he had agreed to give you for the support of his daughter. You get it? That's what this says, if that's what you're showing me. Don't go like this. That's what it says. Now, you have a contract?
Yes, ma'am.
Can I see it, please?
We also have a copy of the $100 check.
No,
Oh, we didn't have that? Oh.
Okay.
You need to.
This says, Vicky's previous boyfriend, that's him, Ramon, shall be excluded from contact with Vicky or her family by means of a restraining order while Marcy is in her custody. That's what you signed. If Marcy is away from Vicky's custody or residence for any reason for periods of a week or more, the balance of the child care prepayment must be returned to the Farrells at the rate of $50 a week. Don't you read?
Yes, I do.
Well, explain that to me.
I'm trying to explain to you, Your Honor, that $1,000 was for a better home.
Listen to me.
Okay.
That's not what this says. It's signed, it's notarized by a notary public. That's not what your contract says.
Isn't my housing part of child care? Wouldn't my housing be part of child care?
Just a minute. Doesn't she understand the rules? The rules are I ask the questions, you answer the questions.
Okay.
Madam, you signed it. So you must know more about Ramon than I do.
At that time, I was under a lot of pressure, and I knew that I wasn't going to put a restraining order. I don't believe it was so mandatory that be done at that time, because Marcy was in the home with Ramon 3 weeks prior to Tom and I even sitting down and discussing this.
Why did you sign this agreement? So, you have to give them back their $1,000. And in addition, you have a counterclaim for a whole bunch of nonsense, that she did damage to your stove. You want moving costs because you moved with the lovely Ramon into a house and that they should pay for it. You want a whole bunch of things. Let me suggest this to you. Get a job. And so should Ramon. Pay your own bills, pay your own expenses, take care of your own selves, take care of your own children. Your counterclaim is dismissed. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,000. Goodbye and good luck.
Thank you, Your Honor. Step out.
We do appreciate what she initially tried to do.
I thought Judge Judy was fair.
Well, I think the contract said it all.
The fact that it was only $50 a week was definitely not enough.
That was the arrangement that she brought to us.
Ramon was the one that took Marcy to school. Ramon was the one that picked her friends up.
He was abusive, and she needed to get rid of him.
He was there for Marcy. There was an abusive relationship, in my opinion, without any doubt. I care about Marcy. I still do, and I wish her the best. I hope the best for her, and I hope she stays alive.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of LeManc versus Minor. Step forward.
23-year-old Gerald LeManc is suing fellow partygoer Daryl Minor for knocking over his laptop computer during a party. Gerald says Daryl had been drinking all day.
Mr. LeManc?
Yes.
You attended a 30th anniversary party at the home of the defendant?
No, it was at the home of a friend of mine.
Defendant was a guest.
Yes.
And you brought your computer with you in order to play music.
Correct.
And it is your claim that Mr. Minor damaged your computer.
Correct.
Mr. Minor says that you balanced this computer in a very precarious way, that he did bump into it, but nothing happened to it, and you shouldn't have brought it anyway. Right, so far?
Right, so far, yes.
Good. When was this party?
August 21st.
Now, what prompted you to bring your computer?
I brought the computer for musical entertainment.
Didn't they have a radio?
We did have a radio on top of 2 speakers, along with the computer.
Okay, so you had 2 big speakers. How tall were the speakers?
About 3 or 4 feet tall. I have pictures.
I'd like to see pictures.
I have pictures of where the computer was and that it was balanced on the speakers.
Oh, I see where it is. I see it's balanced on one of the speakers.
And the ground there was quite level, and the speakers were level.
I see where it's balanced on one of the speakers.
With room to spare. There's room around the whole computer.
It's balanced on one of the speakers. Okay, now who saw Mr. Minor damage the computer? Okay, step up. Who are you?
My name's Raylene Luby, and I'm his cousin.
Whose cousin?
Daryl, Mr. Minor.
Okay, go ahead.
There was a tent there, and so I went outside the tent by the computer and where the beer was, and I was getting a beer, and he came around the corner, and he said, "What are you doing?" And then all of a sudden, he fell forward onto his knees, and the thing slammed shut. The speaker moved. He straightened the speaker back up, stood back up. I walked around. I said, "Jerry, you better go look at your computer." Daryl fell on it.
When he fell on it, it was during the afternoon?
No, it was nighttime.
Had you spoken to Mr. Minor earlier that evening?
Yeah.
Was he fine?
Well, he was drunk.
Well, that's what I'm asking you. He was drunk.
Sure.
What do you mean, sure? I mean, you don't necessarily
been
go to a
drinking
party
all
and
day.
get drunk. What?
He was quite drunk.
So when he fell on the computer, he was drunk.
Sure, yes.
Okay. Go.
Your Honor, when I got there, it started at 3 o'clock. My wife and I showed up. They were playing Irish music. Party went on.
Can we get to the computer, Mr. Minor? Do you remember falling?
I remember hitting the speaker. I was going for a beer. There was a space maybe about 2 foot to get in there. The way the speaker was set up, it was set up so you had to go around it a little bit, which I did.
Did you have too much to drink, Mr. Minor? Your cousin says you did.
Well, they had Jello shots there.
Did you have too much to drink?
Did I have too much to drink? No. I was walking. I didn't have that much to drink.
I have 2 pictures there, Your Honor, with him with a beer cup in his hand, and he was drinking all day long.
Well, I assumed that
It's
he
an
was.
anniversary party for my cousins.
Okay.
I live around the corner.
So what happened to the computer? Is that what it looks like now?
Yes. The computer was damaged, the screen from here to here, and in between in the middle. And it's shattered.
What do you want to say? First, who are you?
I'm his wife.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to say that he wasn't the only one that was drunk. Everybody at the party was drunk. That's why I left early. I do not drink, and it's no fun being with a bunch of people who are drinking.
I'm with you.
So I left. So he was not the only one drunk, and he was not the only one who probably bumped into that speaker.
Well, that you don't know. All you know is that that's his cousin.
Right.
She said the computer was working on top of the speaker. He was drunk, and he fell over, and he knocked it over, and that's what happened.
Right, that's what she said, because she was drunk too.
That may be. However, there's no question that the computer was broken, right?
We don't know that.
Well,
it's
I know
broken
that.
now.
Well, I know that. I mean, did she have a vendetta against you? Listen, Mr. Minor, when you drink, and sometimes you don't remember what happens because you drink too much, sometimes it turns out okay, and sometimes it doesn't turn out okay. In this case, it did not turn out okay. He's allowed to bring his computer to the party. He's allowed to place it someplace, and if you weren't intoxicated, then I would say, well, it's an accident. You fell over, and that's what happens. But when you allow yourself to become inebriated to the extent where you're not steady on your feet and damage occurs, you're responsible, sir. There's no question you're responsible. Then there may have been a lot of other people who were drinking, and there may have been a lot of other people who could have fallen over, but they didn't. You did. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $757. That's all.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
If he would have stepped up like a man in the first place and paid for it, we wouldn't have had to worry about all this.
It's a party. They got Jello shots there. They had everything there, you know, vodka and watermelon and brownies, you know, it's good, that good kind of stuff.
When I called him about it a week later, he had forgotten all about it and denied.
Larry Lane is suing his ex-tenant, collections agent Kay Thomas, for unpaid rent, stolen property, and legal fees. Larry says Kay and her family are professional squatters.
Now, this is case number 419 on the calendar, the matter of Lane versus Thomas. Parties have been sworn in. Judge, you may be seated. Folks have a seat.
Mr. Lane, Miss Thomas was a tenant of yours.
Yes, that's correct.
And it is your claim that she owes you for rent certain property that she took from the apartment or house that she had rented when she ultimately moved out. And that she also owes you for filing false charges against you in her application for a protective order. You claim that Miss Thomas and her family are professional squatters.
Yes, I do.
Which means that they go into people's homes, they rent them, they pay rent for a while, and they stop paying. And since it takes very often 6 months to a year to get them out, they don't pay rent, and they go from place to place, and that's a scam.
It is a scam.
And you're prepared to demonstrate to me that Miss Thomas and her family have a history of doing the same kind of thing to other landlords.
Yes, I do.
And I'd be interested to hear about that. In any event, when did you rent? Is it an apartment or a house?
It was a 3-bedroom, 2-bath home, upper middle income with a
When?
pool. February, I rented her the home. She signed a lease on February 27th.
Of 2004?
She moved in on 2004. She moved in on March 15th, 2004.
Who moved in?
Valina Thomas, and the premises were leased to her and her daughter. In addition to her moving in, she moved her brother in.
No, just a second. Who signed the lease?
Valina Thomas and Thomas.
Is that your husband?
Yes, ma'am.
How much was the rent, Mr. Lane?
I asked for first, last, and the security
How-
deposit, $1,250, Your Honor. $1,250.
I'm going to ask the questions.
Yes, ma'am.
You're going to give me the answers. If I need for you to expand, you're going to do that
Thank you.
for me. $1,250 a month.
$1,250 a month.
And they gave you first, last, and security.
That's correct.
Okay, so they paid for March, and it was a year lease?
The check for March, Your Honor, was
No, was it a
dishonored.
year lease?
It is a year lease, yes, Your Honor.
The check for March was what, sir?
The check for March was dishonored by the bank. She alleged that her girlfriend had given her a $569 check.
Okay, so the
But
check for March was bounced.
Yes, Your Honor.
Did she ever pay March rent?
She did, Your Honor.
Okay, when did she pay March rent?
She paid March rent prior to April 15th.
And she paid April's rent?
She did pay April's rent, Your Honor.
And what about May?
She did not pay May's, June's, or July's.
Shh. Did she and her husband and the rest of the people that she moved into the house, did they live there May, June, and July?
Yes, they did, Your Honor. They lived there through August.
Through August?
Well, actually, they had abandoned the property, and I lived out of state, and I repossessed the property with a writ of possession on July 29th.
I just want to know,
yes, ma'am.
When was the last time they lived in the house?
I wouldn't know. I didn't come back to the property until August the 7th.
Okay, when was the last time you lived in the house, Miss Thomas?
July 31st.
Fine. Can I see your rent receipt from May?
Did not pay the rent from May till June. Did
Why?
not.
You lived there in May.
Yes, ma'am. The rent was due on the 15th of every month.
Right.
I paid April's rent from April 15th to May 15th.
Right.
We notified Mr. Lane that my husband's job was transferring him. First, we notified Mr. Brown when we paid April's rent that my husband's job was transferring him to Sarasota, Florida, which is 2 hours away from where we were living. He said, just let me know the date when you're going to be moving. Told Mr. Lane called. He said, I'll tell you what. He says, you paid half of May's rent, and I will return your security deposit if you're out before June the 15th. However, when I asked for a letter stating the fact, everything changed. He sent me a 3-day notice to vacate. Then he sent me another 3-day notice from a realtor company.
So what?
A month later.
So what? Months later, you were supposed to be out. Why weren't you out in June?
Because he didn't follow his agreement either.
Why weren't you out in June?
Because our house wasn't ready that we were moving to. And
then why didn't you pay rent?
We told him we were moving. And he said that...
Just a second, I don't understand something. Just a minute. Miss Thomas, if what you're telling me is that you moved and that's why you didn't pay rent, that's fine. But what you're telling me now is that you told him you were moving, but you didn't move because your house wasn't ready and you didn't pay rent. Just a second.
Okay.
Let's get to objective facts.
Okay.
Miss Thomas.
Okay.
Who is this?
This is my daughter, Heather.
All right. Is she a witness?
Yes, she is.
Fine. Then, unfortunately, she has to stay here.
That's fine.
If you live in an apartment or a house that doesn't belong to you, pursuant to a lease, if you live there, you have to pay rent.
I agree.
I don't want to hear any baloney about why you didn't pay rent.
I never said I didn't know it. I owe him for May and June.
Oh, well, that's not what you're saying here.
I have it.
Just a second. I don't see in here that that's what you say, that you owe him for May and June. Let me see. In June, we could no longer afford the premises. That's what you wrote in your answer. That's what you swore to. Mm-hmm. And also, we found out that my husband was being transferred in the latter part of July.
Yes, ma'am.
What does that have to do with May and... Stop playing with your papers. So that has nothing to do with May and June's rent.
I agree. I mean, we owe May. We owe May and June.
Let's move on. We informed the plaintiff that we would be moving, and Mr. Lane was not very happy. He said that if we paid half of May's rent, he would refund our deposit when we moved. However, the money we had given him when we moved in was enough to cover up our rent until July, so we weren't going to pay him anymore. You got a whole bunch of excuses here, and you can't seem to keep your story straight. You lived there in May, you lived there in June, you lived there in July, and you didn't pay rent. Nowhere in your answer do you say, well, I do owe him for May and June.
I've always said I owed him, even in the court doc.
Would you do me a favor, please, Bird? Would you show this answer, this sworn answer that she signed to her, and ask her, maybe I missed it, you know, I don't know how I scored in reading. Show me in your answer where you say you acknowledge that you owe him for 2 months' rent.
I never acknowledged that I owed him for 2 months' rent.
Until now. Oh, fine. Fine, then we get it now. Now you owe him for 2 months' rent.
Well, I also acknowledged when we went to Brevard County Courthouse that I owed him for 2 months'
Just
rent.
a second. I'm not talking about any place else that you went when he tried to get you evicted. I'm talking about small claims court, which is where you are. So you forgot to put that down in your answer that you owe him for 2 months' rent.
Okay.
Is that right? You forgot.
Yes,
fine. You owe him for 2 months' rent.
Yes,
so your rent was $1,250. times 2 is $2,500. So that you owe him. That you acknowledge you owe him. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
All right.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Says ex-tenant Kay Thomas owes for 3 months' rent. Larry says Kay is a squatter.
Now, when did you start eviction proceedings against her?
I attempted to start eviction proceedings in May.
So you already knew that this was a lost cause with these people?
I didn't believe it was a lost cause, Your Honor.
Well, then why would you choose to evict them?
I put a 3-day notice on her door precautionarily.
Sir, they owe you $2,500 for the 2 months' rent.
What about July, Your Honor?
Shh. Just a minute.
Okay.
Now, did you get first month's rent and last month's rent?
I did, Your Honor.
Just a second. Listen to me. The last month's rent would have been July. Is that right, Mr. Lane?
Yes, ma'am.
What about the security deposit?
Well, Your Honor, there was extensive damage to my home and legal fees.
How much were your legal fees?
$691.
Okay. And what kind of damage was done to the home?
Well, Your Honor, the screens on all windows were damaged. All the blinds were damaged.
Do you have any photographs?
Yes, I do, Your
I'd
Honor.
like to see them, please.
I also have receipts for blinds.
How did these windows get broken?
Can I see those pictures? I haven't seen them.
Sure.
Thank you. Your Honor, I have pictures also.
I'd like to see
The day
them.
before we moved in and the day we moved out. Would you like to see those?
I would.
These are the 2 screens that he's claiming on the kitchen. That's the 31st. You can see that those are not broke. Living room blind, kitchen, and the other one that we admitted to. These are the 2 that we admitted to as far as the blinds go. The dates are on them, Your Honor.
Okay. Okay, so I have broken blinds.
And can I clarify something really quick? He said that me and my husband and my daughter moved into the house. I have 2 daughters, and he met them both. He also came 2 days before he left for Bay City, Michigan. He came to my house, my last residency, unannounced, but he came.
You mean the new place?
The old place. Prior to moving to his residency, I lived in Cocoa Beach, and he came to my residency 2 days before I signed the lease with him.
Yeah.
He's talking about me moving my brother and my sister-in-law in. He met them. He knew them. He knew they were going to be staying there with us for a month or so till they found their own place.
Mr. Lane?
Yes, ma'am.
Defendant acknowledges at this juncture that she owes you 2 months' rent. I would take that and be happy.
What about the furniture she stole?
Now let's get to the furniture.
All right.
Show me pictures of the furniture.
I can't. I can only show you receipts, Your Honor, because I'm
What
having
furniture did
photographs.
you take, Miss Thomas? You indicate that you took some stuff from the house.
I didn't take anything. I sold it.
You sold it?
Yes, ma'am. I have receipts to that, where I sold it to and how much I sold it for.
Let me see.
The last 2 pages.
Miss Thomas, why would you sell property that didn't belong to you?
I sold the dining room set and the bedroom set.
Why would you sell property that didn't belong to you?
We had an agreement in the lease for me to purchase it.
You mean you purchased it?
We-
Did you purchase it?
No, we did not pay it in full. No, sir. No, ma'am.
Okay. So you had a provision in the lease if you wanted to purchase it, but you didn't purchase it, and yet you sold it.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, you can't do that.
I understand that. I did it out of anger because of what he done. He tried to have my electricity cut off.
Your Honor, I have a subpoena from Florida Power and Light showing that I didn't turn her power off.
You tried.
But not only had she given him a false security number to get her power, she bounced checks on him, and that the power was turned off. And here it is, Your Honor,
Can I see it, please?
along with the subpoena.
Fine.
She also gave him a false address where she was moving to send the final bill. I corrected it for Florida Power and Light so they can collect from this deadbeat.
Shh. You owe money?
Yes, I'm paying them $75 a month. Yes, ma'am.
For money that you owe them?
Yes, ma'am.
Well,
I
you
made
got to pay your
arrangements.
bills, madam. If you don't pay your bills, bad things happen. They turn off your lights, they turn off your
Ma'am,
water, they
my
turn off
lights
your
were turned-
electricity. That's what happens when you don't pay your bills. Listen, you can't sell property that doesn't belong to you.
understand that.
You didn't pay your electric bill. That's why you're paying $75 to make up what you owe them.
Your Honor, her lights were turned off June 26th. Okay.
Not interested in that. How much is this stuff worth, sir? Dining room table with a hutch, a wicker bedroom set,
King-size bed,
king-size bed.
armoire.
How much did she agree to pay in the lease for the things that she sold?
She was going to pay $50 a month, but never consummated that.
No. Mr. Lane.
She was going to pay
What-
$50 a month and the balance on conclusion of the lease.
Okay,
The lease agreement shows
$50
that.
a month
Paragraph 22,
times
page
12 is $600.
8. Yes, Your Honor.
And the balance upon the termination of the lease, what was the furniture sold for, Mr.
The
Lane?
furniture was sold for $1,250
$1,250 in total.
total.
Is
Yes,
that
Your
right?
Honor. Mm-hmm.
Is that right?
That's correct.
Then that's what you owe him.
I understand that. Never said I didn't owe him for it.
Yes, you did. Show her the answer. She said the stuff he left in the house was a bunch of junk.
I was referring to
Just a second.
I was referring to the refrigerator.
Show me in here where
It's
you
not in that
acknowledge
one.
that you owe him money for the furniture that you sold.
It's not in there, ma'am.
Right. It's not in there.
I was referring to the refrigerator.
Mr. Lane,
Yes, ma'am.
I would like you to give me whatever proof you have that the Thomas family are squatters and scammers.
Please.
So far, I would tend to agree with you.
Your Honor, I did a background investigation, and I should have done this prior to it, but my grandson was in a hospital. This shows that she was evicted. This is a background investigation from the internet that shows 6 bad checks and cable fraud.
You got anything else?
Yes, I do. She currently is in Bradenton, Florida, in a diversion program for first-time offenders for bad checks. And I don't know about anything else, Your Honor. I just knew
Is that all
this-
correct? Are you
The
currently-
bad checks. Yeah, a bad check. Yes, ma'am. It was the first time offender where I wrote a bad check. Yes, ma'am.
It was the first time you got caught.
No. No, it's
It was the first time you got caught.
Your Honor, this account...
I don't understand you, Miss Thomas. I don't understand why you believe. How old are you?
19.
May I?
Well, you know, she's not a baby, so she can be here.
Your Honor,
Listen.
this account was written on a closed account, which she alleged somebody had given her a check.
You already gave him a bad check.
May I
for
see
March.
that
Closed
account?
account.
May I see that account, please? Yes, ma'am. And I took care of it. As soon as he told me that it had not been paid, I gave him the money. Care of it.
Okay.
Took it out of the
I
account.
see it.
So
Your
it
Honor,
wasn't
she
that
told
he...
me that the check had bounced and yes, ma'am.
Mr. Lane,
Yes,
how long
ma'am.
have you been a landlord?
This was the first time I rented a piece of property, and I must have had stupid written right across my forehead.
That's true.
I understand. Your Honor, I have one other thing I'd like to say briefly.
Go ahead.
Your Honor, there was property in my garage, and when I reported my furniture missing to the police, they said it was a civil matter. They couldn't do anything. But the property that I had in my garage was a side-by-side refrigerator, a Craftsman lawnmower, and a power edger. She disposed of that equipment. I went back down to the police department. They sent me out to her house to inspect again to see if the property was moved indoors or in the backyard. And as I tried to go in, she had me arrested for battery.
He was not arrested, Your Honor. He was never charged.
She filed charges.
I have police reports.
Did you get your refrigerator back?
No. And
you
the other
get your-
landlord,
You didn't get it back. Did you get anything back that was in the garage?
no, I didn't get anything back.
Where's
Not
the
even the
stuff?
keys to the house.
Where's the stuff? I'm not talking about the keys. Where's the stuff?
Can I explain what led up to that?
No. I just asked you where the stuff is.
It's gone.
What do you mean it's
Mr.
gone?
Brown.
It went to the refrigerator ferry. Where did it go?
We got the junk guy got it because it was no good. The gasket on it was broke. It wasn't keeping the air in. It was leaking water. He left it. He did not want it.
Just a second. When did you get rid of it?
July the 8th.
Well, if it was bothering you, why didn't you get rid of it when you first moved in instead
We
of
were
July the 8th?
we were in the process of cleaning out the house, getting everything done. We had talked to Mr. Brown. He said it was given to you, whatever. Mr. Lane didn't want it. Do whatever you wanted to do with it.
Did you say that to her?
No, ma'am.
We
Of
even
course
cleaned
not.
it out.
Of course not. Well,
Your Honor.
what you're supposed to do is
also-
I'm speaking.
Yes,
What you're
ma'am.
supposed to do is stop making excuses.
I'm not making excuses,
Well,
Your
you
Honor.
did. You made excuses. You made excuses to
But
me.
he's saying I destroyed his house. He inspected the house on
I'm
July
not
the 21st.
talking about the inspection of the house. I'm talking about several things. I'm talking about the rent that you owed him.
I agree.
For $2,500.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm talking about the furniture that you agreed to buy, which you didn't buy, which you sold.
Yes, ma'am.
So you owe him $1,250. I'm talking about the merchandise that was in the garage that you disposed of the same month that you moved out. The same month that you moved out. You didn't say to me, listen, he had all this junk in the garage and I was paying for the garage, so when we moved in, I got some junk guy to come over and get rid of it. You disposed of it the same month that you were moving. Ms. Thomas, you did the wrong thing. And what you're supposed to do, put that down. What you're supposed to do when you do the wrong thing, especially if you have a child here, is you're supposed to say, I did the wrong thing.
I did. I mean, I did that.
Well, you didn't admit it to me in the answer. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $5,000. That's all. Goodbye.
Parties are excused.
The previous two landlords, she also squatted on them and sold their property, including a refrigerator as well. I would advise any landlord to look at property research records and make sure that they're talking to the exact reference, because she gave me false references in this case. I started to walk into the house to inspect it. She went like this in the doorway. My belly touched her belly, and next thing I know, I've got a officer wanting to arrest me for assault. If you're going to be a landlord, and if you haven't done it before, hire a property management firm. I am not a property manager. My office manager of the insurance agency is a great office manager, but he's not a property manager either. They know how to evict them, they know how to detect them, and they know how to background check them. I'm glad that I was able to come to Judge Judy, because I know she's the only woman in this world that would be able to give these squatters the tongue lashing that they needed.
Student Jill Waters is suing her ex-husband, landscaper Richard Boris, for the cost to fix up their son's classic Ford Falcon.
Yeah, this is case number 438 on the calendar in the matter of Water versus Boris. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated, sir. Have a seat, please.
Mrs. Water, the defendant is your former husband, and you have 2 children together.
We have 4.
I only knew of 2 boys. You have
2 boys and 2 girls.
In any event, one of your boys was in need of a car. So you called your ex-husband because you knew that he had a car that was not running, an old car, 40 years old, a classic car, and you made the following agreement with him, according to your complaint, that you would invest your money in getting the car up and running if he would give the car to your son. What's your son's name?
Luke.
And Mr. Boris said, okay, go get it. It's laying over in my father's property because it's not running. So far, correct?
I went down and prepped the car. We pulled it out and cleaned it up. My son.
But it wasn't running.
It wasn't running.
And you took the car, and over the course of the next several months, you put the car in running order and invested, according to you, almost $4,000 in the car. And at some point there came a problem because you couldn't title the car and get the insurance on the car and turn it over to Luke because there was some problem with Mr. Boris.
Yes.
And you ended up buying your son another car.
Right.
And now you're suing him for the money you invested in his car.
Yes.
So I'm going to turn to you, Mr. Boris, and ask you some questions, sir.
Sure.
First, tell me what year car this was.
1964 Falcon.
And how long have you had it?
30 years.
And according to your answer, it had been your intention always to give the car to one of your sons.
Correct.
So it's clear that you and your former wife had this agreement that she was going to fix the car and you were going to give the car to Luke.
Right.
And she did fix the car and invest thousands of dollars in it.
No, she said she had it fixed, but it still didn't run right. After spending that amount of money, it didn't run right.
She spent thousands of dollars on the car.
Correct.
How many thousands of dollars do you have documented that you spent on the car?
$5,293.
So what happened, Mr. Boris?
When they picked the car up, I only saw it one time after they picked the car up, and I had asked on several occasions to be included in the repair of the car because that was our dream. That didn't happen. Her new live-in boyfriend did the repairs on the car with my son, which upset him greatly because that was our thing, always.
And Mr. Boris, if that was going to be your thing, then why didn't you say, listen, if you pay for the parts, we'll leave it at my father's house, and I'll work with Luke on it, you know, whenever I can. Why did you, according to you, put it in shape so that they could move it?
She made the offer of, if I give the car to Luke, that she would pay for the repairs.
Right. Well, that's what I said.
She didn't want to include me in that, though. She said she would, but once they got the car, I never saw it after that. They took it somewhere else to a friend of his who builds race cars, and she wouldn't tell me where it was. I'd asked several occasions.
How did you ask?
I'd like to go see the car. I'd like to see where it is, the progress of the car.
And what did she say to you?
No, it's being worked on.
Oh, that's not a nice thing to do. Why did you do that?
Well, I don't recall ever saying that. The car was at the mechanic's house for a month while he was rebuilding the engine and doing major work to it, and then we brought it home, and it was parked in front of the house until the police came by and told me that the registration was not valid, even though I had plates and tags. So we had to move it off the street. So we did park it at a friend's house who has some property.
Well, what do you need to get the car in a state where it can be registered and have proper tags?
Just a signed statement from him stating that he has given the car to my son, but he refuses to do that.
I have a thing from the DMV. My son has the proper paperwork. The reason that the DMV kicked it back out was because she tried to add her name to it. Her name
How old is Luke?
16.
He can't register the car himself.
He can become the legal owner, though.
No, he can't. He can't. She needs an insurable interest in the car in order to get insurance on it. Anybody who wants to insure a car has to have an insurable interest in that car. Otherwise, you could take out insurance on my life, for instance, and then I wouldn't feel safe. Do you understand? So your 16-year-old son cannot own this property alone. He has to own it with a parent, with an adult, or with his guardian.
More than willing to be a co-owner with him.
Well, that wasn't your agreement.
And the agreement wasn't to make her the owner either.
No, she's not supposed to be the owner. But if she...
There on the paperwork, it's trying to show that she's trying to put her name on the title.
With Luke?
Mm-hmm.
Well, so what's wrong with that? She's just paid $5,000 to fix it.
Because my son told me once she takes ownership, because she bought him a new car. She went and spent thousands of dollars more for a new car rather than to continue to invest in fixing that car. And my son has told me that once she becomes the owner, she's going to sell it. And that was never the intent.
Miss Water, is it your testimony today that if you are successful, that it is your intention to give this car to your son, or is it your intention to sell it?
My intent was to get the car running for my son. I tried to do something nice because I knew he wanted to give the car to one of his sons. So I said, you give him the car, I will pay to have it up and running. He failed to follow through on his part.
No, madam.
He refused to sign a bill of sale.
He did not want to sign a bill of sale to you and Luke. He says, I don't have a problem with signing a bill of sale over to myself and Luke, but not
after
to...
I invested the money.
What?
It could be in my son's name, but as you state, it cannot only be in his name.
Correct. And he said, I'm not making my former wife a gift. I'm making a gift to my son. So he has no objection to giving you a bill of sale so that you can act as emissary to have the car registered and insured. Correct?
Yes.
That's not unreasonable. That was your agreement. Your agreement wasn't that he was going to reimburse you.
I have a younger son whom also I had planned on once he reaches the age to pass that car on to him.
Listen, you can only pass the car to one child. You made an agreement with your former wife. Your agreement was that she would fix the car. She would pay to fix the car, and the car would be Luke's.
Right. And
it is only by virtue of the fact that the law proscribes a 16-year-old from owning a vehicle because he can't insure the vehicle that I come up with this solution for you, sir. And she is the guardian and custodian of your 16-year-old son, so you cannot sell this car without her permission. Are you following what I'm saying?
Yes, I would turn the car after Luke is 18.
No.
It's a family heirloom. It's something I want to keep in the family.
Mr. Boris, listen to me very carefully, sir. You made an agreement with your former wife.
And Luke.
And Luke. And you will, and I will issue an order, that you will do a bill of sale to your son and you as co-owners of this car. And you will deliver that bill of sale to your former wife, giving her the ability, because that was your agreement, to register the car and insure it. If Luke chooses to drive it, that's fine. If he wishes to insure it, that's fine. If she wishes to keep that car on her property for the next 2 years until Luke is ready to take it himself, and I assume, sir, that you want to maintain good relations with your son when he's 18. I assume you're going to sign the car over to him.
Correct.
Right?
Right.
Perfect. That's the solution. So within 5 days from today, you will deliver that statement to your wife, along with the agreement that when Luke turns 18, he will become the sole owner of the car. Is that reasonable?
That's reasonable.
Understand? Good. Thank you. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I'm very frustrated. I put a lot of money into that car, and I wasn't able to get it registered so my son could use it, and he needed another car, so I have spent more money than I needed to.
She let her new live-in boyfriend do the work on the car with my son.
They're just allegations. I gave him plenty of opportunity. The only thing is he wanted me to fund his time with his son.
That had been something that my son and I had always planned on doing together, not some guy that she has living in the house.
He makes everything difficult.
It's been this way for years.
I just hope we can put it behind us.
Mary Bankston is suing her ex-boyfriend, mechanic Weldon Hultgren, for charges he made on her credit card. Mary says she took Weldon in after he was released from prison.
Now, this is case number 474 on the calendar in the matter of Bankston versus Hultgren. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Folks, have a seat.
Miss Bankston, who are these people?
This is April Hultgren, Bo's daughter, and my fiance, Randy.
And who is this?
It's my fiance, Tara Harris.
Everybody brings a fiance. What do they have to do with this case? Anything?
She's seen some stuff and heard some stuff, and other than that, that's about it.
Okay. According to what I read, Miss Bankston, he used to be a friend of yours or a boyfriend of yours?
He used to live with me.
Live with you as a boyfriend?
Yes, ma'am.
And then he went to jail?
No, ma'am. He lived with me after he came out of jail.
What year did you go to jail, sir?
In January '92.
And how old was April in 1992?
7.
Who did she live with?
When I was in jail, she was living with my mom and my dad.
What happened with that?
They died.
When did they die?
In '96, my dad died, and in '98, my mom died.
What happened in 1998?
She went to live with a friend of mine for a little while, and her mother come got her. After that, Mary went and got her out of a motel room.
How old was she at the time, Miss Bankston?
She was 13 when I took her.
How did you find her in a motel room?
She called me and told me she wanted something. She hadn't eaten in a few days, and I took her something to eat. And when I got to the motel, it was a bad place for her to be. And so I took her with me, and I raised her until he got out.
When did you get out?
2001, October 2001.
Were you in communication with Miss Bankston while your daughter was living with her?
Yes, ma'am.
And what did you tell her in this communication?
Told her I appreciated everything she was doing for her.
Who was supporting her at the time she was living with you?
I was.
When you got out of jail, Mr. Hultgren, where did you go?
I moved in with Mary.
Mary and your daughter?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you go to work?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you start supporting the household?
I was pulling my share, ma'am.
What was he paying for?
He was paying like the electric bills, and I paid the house payment because it was my house before he came along, and he paid the electric bill and things like that. He was pulling his weight as long as he lived there. Yes, ma'am.
Did you ever ask Miss Bankstrom how much she spent on your daughter while you were incarcerated?
No.
Why not?
I don't have any idea why I didn't.
Well, this lawsuit's very simple. It said that at some point you used her credit card after you got out of jail while you were living with her. You used her credit card. You told her you would pay for the bills on her credit card, and you didn't. And you owe her some money, $1,100.
Right.
So?
She got me some credit cards off her account, and went and ate on them and done some stuff on them. I took my boy to World Series, Little League World Series up in Oklahoma on a gas card, and other than that, I was paying them until I left.
And so what happened when you left?
I don't know, it wasn't a good scene.
Did you leave with your daughter or without your daughter?
I left without my daughter.
So you left your daughter there?
No, she wasn't living there at the time, I don't think.
Where was she living?
Living in another place.
Where was she living?
She was living with another friend of ours.
Why?
Her and her father did not get along, so she moved out of the house.
Okay. Can I see the charges that he made?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Would you like all the evidence? Or just
sure. Golden Corral.
That's an eating establishment.
Japanese Palace.
Another eating establishment. I have several eating establishments that we ate at on my credit cards, too.
Well, this is a lot of eating out.
Been 10 years since I ate out anywhere, so we kind of ate out pretty regularly.
So why don't you pay for it?
Well, I really don't feel like I owe her anything on that because I put a, you know, I've done some other things, you know, I wasn't trying to get anything from her that I've done over there. I mean, you know.
Well, give me an example, sir.
I put a storage building in the backyard. It was like $900-something bucks. I helped put a central air and heating unit in her house. That was labor on there. I put some electrical work in the garage and stuff.
Well, how much do you think it takes to support a teenager, sir? A month?
Quite a bit.
Listen, you know, if you have a large golden retriever, you can't take care of a large golden retriever for less than $100 a month. So
Right.
would you say it costs $200 a month to take care of a teenager?
At least.
Let's try 3.
Yeah, probably.
14 months, right? And she was there 14 months, and you didn't pay any support, right? So why would you stick her with $1,100 worth of bills?
The bottom line is that it was kind of crazy over there. There's several things that happened, and, you know, she wrecked my motorcycle and all that, you know, right there
She what?
at the end. She wrecked my motorcycle.
She wrecked your motorcycle. I couldn't understand. She
Right.
wrecked your motorcycle. How'd
Right.
she do that?
Well, she took off on it and crashed
That he
it.
wouldn't even had if I had not had financed it for him.
And I was without the motorcycle for 3 months. I paid $500 a month on that while I was in the shop. $6,500 a month.
Well, did she do that on purpose?
Well, I told her not to get on it because she never rode one before, and she took off on it on her own wheel and crashed it. Hurt herself real bad. You know, and then right before I got the motorcycle, I was going to refinance the motorcycle because she kept hounding me about getting it refinanced,
Because
out of
she
her
was on a
name.
loan.
Right. And,
Well, she asked you to refinance it because she didn't want to be on the loan.
Right.
Well,
So
that sounds right to me.
Well, I finally did that, and the day I was
No, he
going to...
didn't.
The day I was going to refinance it, she called me and told me that she wasn't going to sign off on that loan until I give her $1,000. And I said, well, I ain't give you $1,000. And I went up there and traded it in and got it out of her name anyway.
What a prince. This is your fiancé. Is there anything you want to say to me?
Yeah, do I need to stand up?
You do.
I just have one comment, and that is whenever he went to refinance the motorcycle last year, he got his credit report and got it back, and it was about that thick, where he only had 4 credit cards in his name that he had gotten since they split up. Well, this had 18 open accounts on it.
We're not talking about the charges for those.
I know, but what I'm saying is...
What's your name?
Tara Harris.
Miss Harris, how old are you?
32.
You have children?
1.
How old?
12.
Who supports that child?
Me and him support him, and I get child support.
Get child support from the child's father?
Yes.
Get child support every month?
No, ma'am.
Every week?
No, ma'am.
How often?
Supposed to get it every month.
Yeah. And what happens?
He's been living at my house. He was with his dad. He's been living with us for the last year.
Oh, so before that he was living with his father?
Yes, ma'am.
Were you paying child support
Yes,
to his
ma'am.
father? How often?
Out of every paycheck, weekly.
Now, when you don't get child support from his father, does that annoy you?
Yes, ma'am.
And that child is biologically related to you.
Correct.
And biologically related to his father. How do you feel about somebody who doesn't feel any responsibility to somebody who supports their child for 14 months?
She lived with me for 5 years before he got out.
5 years. And pays for clothes, doctor, shoes, vacation, everything else. And doesn't say, as soon as I get out, I'm going to start paying you back for whatever you laid out, because I know that that's my responsibility. Think that kind of person has good moral fiber?
Actually, I think Bubba does have good moral fiber. He just, he didn't work for 10 years. He didn't have the money.
Well, he does now.
Yes, ma'am, he does, and he
So
greatly
just a second.
appreciates.
Just a second. I don't care if he appreciates. You got to put your money where your mouth is, honey. Appreciating is not good enough. How could you say he's got good moral fiber? He's working now. And if his child was supported by a stranger for 5 years, and not only supported by, but nurtured by, stayed with, took care of when she was sick, whatever else, you start paying that back. You start saying that was my obligation. And because I committed a crime doesn't mean that I don't have that obligation. So instead of not paying her support, now, I'm not talking about a year ago or 2 years ago, I'm talking about now. Instead of supporting your child, to whom he is not obligated in any way legally, should send that money to her. She's not even suing for that money. I would love for her to do that. All she says was he used the credit card, $1,100, and that he should pay. Don't you think he should pay that too? Minimally.
No, I don't think he should pay that credit card debt.
You think he should pay her for supporting his daughter?
He's probably, yeah, I would say that he's probably responsible for that.
Well, she's not suing. She's not suing him for that. She says, I took that responsibility on myself, and I'm not even going to pursue that. I just want what he's supposed to pay me on the credit card when he left. You get my drift.
Yes, ma'am.
Good. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,100. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I felt he can buy other things. He can buy a new Harley, but he couldn't pay me $1,100 for credit card bills that he charged up.
What he'll go for? I mean, I don't know what I've done. If she wouldn't have been here, I don't know where she'd be, you know.
He has somebody else. I have somebody else. We're friends. We have a daughter together.
I'm just glad she's going to get paid so I don't have to hear him argue anymore.
I will never put nobody on my credit cards ever again.
Personal trainer Raymond DiNardo for misrepresenting the sale of an Incredible Hulk comic book on eBay. Raymond claims James got what he paid for.
Quiet in the courtroom, please. Yeah, this is case number 510 on the calendar in the matter of Lovegren versus DiNardo. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ma'am, have a seat.
Mr. Lovegren, according to your complaint, you did what a lot of other people are doing these days, and you bought something off the internet. What you bought was what you thought was a rare comic book, rare and valuable comic book from Mr. DiNardo, who would put it on the internet. You paid him the money, and when you got the comic book, it turned out to be, according to you, not what you had bargained for. Mr. DiNardo says you got exactly what you bargained for. He sent you the comic book that he had, in fact, advertised on eBay or what?
Correct, ma'am.
What kind of comic book was this, Mr. London?
Your Honor, this is an Incredible Hulk comic book, number 181. To collectors, it's a rare comic. It introduces a major character from Marvel Comics, the Wolverine, which means nothing
right,
except to a comic collector. It makes it very desirable.
You're interested in this? All right, let me see the advertisement, please. They put it up on the internet. Somebody puts it on, so they have this for sale.
This is the actual eBay advertisement.
That's what I want to see.
Nice taste.
Okay. This says, Mr. DiNardo, and I just want to know if you put this up on the internet. 9.9, the rare, mint, sought-after original. Bidding has ended for this item. Starting bid, $1,200. And then the description. I am looking for a good new home for my issue of the Incredible Hulk, number 181. This book has given me years of enjoyment. I can only hope the new owner gives this treasure the respect and caring it deserves. Oh, yeah.
Obviously, I'm a novice. I'm not a professional. He's...
Okay, no, listen to me.
Okay.
All I want to know, sir, is this what you put on the machine? On
that
the
is
one on the computer.
That is one of the items I put on the machine.
Okay.
Not the one that we consummated for price on.
Well, just a second. We're not there yet, sir.
Okay, I'm just clarifying.
No, you're not clarifying at all. You're going to listen to me. You're going to answer my questions, because in the unlikely event that you think that because I don't know a computer from a hole in the wall,
never said that,
you're going to be able to fool. And I don't know a computer from the hole in the wall, but I do know legitimate versus scam. That's what I do know.
There was no scam.
Listen to me, sir. He sent you $1,200. No. How much did he send you?
$1,500.
Okay, so there was a bidding on this.
No, he had called me behind eBay's back, which is against the law.
Okay, so he called, just a second, so he contacted you.
Correctly. After I've took that off.
What was the date he contacted you?
I think it was November 15th.
Is that when you contacted him?
It would have been the 13th. I probably sent him an email.
Okay, and what did you say in the email?
The email basically would say, I see your comic did not sell, and I asked if the book was still available. He sent me an email on November 12th.
Can I see it, please?
The book is still available, and it's got his phone number on it.
So you called him?
Yes, I called him, and it was probably the 15th that we got together on the phone.
Okay, called him, he called you, whatever. You got together on the 15th, and did you make a deal for this comic book?
Yes, and I asked him, one, because I can see the picture of that book is a CD comic. A comic like that comes encased in a clear plastic case. It's sealed in here. It is not counterfeitable. It has a barcode. It's registered with the company that grades it.
That's one that you got. That's not this one.
Right, that's just a sample comic, just to show you what it is.
Mm-hmm.
I asked him when I talked to him, now this is a CGC graded book at 9.9. He said it was. I said, and you have the receipt for that? And he said he did. That convinced me we were dealing with the real thing.
Okay.
We agreed on the price of $1,500 then, and I wanted to try and pick it up the next day. I called him back.
Because you realized, sir, if you made this deal for $1,500, that was an incredible bargain.
Yes.
Because the value of it was how much?
I figured it could be worth $20,000.
Okay. So you thought that you had some dumb guy who didn't know what he had.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay.
It happens.
I know it happens. There are a lot of dumb people out there.
Right, and I'm one of them because
right.
I sent them the money.
Because you got a piece of junk and he's got your $1,500.
Right, exactly. Yep.
Go ahead.
So anyway, I tried to call him back an hour later because I had to arrange to. We're 6 hours away.
Let me ask you a question. Cut to the chase. You sent him the $1,500.
I wanted to drive up there and pick it up. That way, I give you the money, I got the book. It didn't happen. Due to my job and maybe his, I don't know, we couldn't get together. On the 22nd, he called up and talked to my wife. He said that he was going to send the comic down to us. If I liked it, I could send him the money. I said, well, that's an incredibly generous offer. On the 25th, we got a call back that said his wife wouldn't let him send the book. Because not without it being paid for.
Sure. Right?
Can't blame
a lot
that.
of scammers out there. Shh. Sorry.
During that conversation, I said, well, I believed he had this book, that it was a 9.9 graded book. We arranged to wire the money, and that cost $109 actually, plus the $20 shipping.
Still would be nothing if you could sell it for 20 grand.
Absolutely. And I got to tell you, my wife is sitting there, and you know, you're thinking I'm a nut and stuff, but I don't spend $1,500 on a comic. I never have. In this case, I would, and the only way my wife would let me do that was I said, look it, I sell the comic, you keep the money. So anyway, I proceeded to wire
Sounds
the
like
money.
she's the only one who's got a brain here.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Raymond Donardo, when he bought an Incredible Hulk comic book from him on eBay.
You wired the money, he sent you the comic book, and it wasn't what you thought it was.
What it is just a strictly graded, and I could consider myself a professional grader. This book grades very good to fine condition. On a scale of 1 to 10, the 9.9 is on a scale of 10. This is about a 5.5. Its value is about $300.
And so you contacted him immediately and he said, send me my money back.
Yeah, I said, I don't know, you know.
When you put this 9.9 comic book on eBay, did you or did you not own it at the time you put it on eBay?
I did not.
Right. How could you offer to sell something that you didn't own?
Because I was supposed to own it by the end of the bidding time, but that deal fell through. So that's where the problem is.
That's a big problem.
Correct.
You can't put something on eBay that you don't own.
Why can't I?
Why? Because that's
Dealerships
like
put
that.
cars on eBay that are on consignment. They technically do not own the vehicle.
Having something on consignment, sir, is having a legitimate right to sell it.
Okay.
You don't have a legitimate right to offer something for sale that you don't own.
Okay.
And they just so happen to say, I will sell you this 9.9, and it happened to be the same comic book that you had that was that one, right? Same comic book, different condition, right?
Correct.
Karnak. What are the statistical probabilities of one schlepper who knows nothing about comic books having a nexus to two of the same comic books, The Incredible Hulk, at the same moment in history, and putting them on eBay at the same moment in history, one that's worth $300 and one that's worth $20,000? 1 in 10 million? More than that.
They're
1 in, I'm not talking to you, I'm talking to my friend over here.
That's what
1 in 20 million?
Probably more than that.
So now I want you, Mr. DiNardo, to reduce what Byrd, who is a very conservative man, by the way, has calculated at a 1 in 20 million plus probability of you having your hands on the same 2 magazines at the same moment in history when he wanted to buy it. Reduce that for me.
Okay. Actually, it was a week apart, but I had no idea that somebody that had sold so many comic books would think that he would be getting a $1,500 comic book that was sold for $20,000. It just did. I assumed that he was talking about the comic book that I originally had sold. It just doesn't make any sense that he would think, oh, okay, this comic book I'm getting for $1,500, and I'm going to make $18,000 off of that. Does that make any sense? It doesn't. He went behind eBay's back, which is illegal.
Just a second, did you hang up the phone on him?
No, I did not. But he's already admitted
Listen to me.
Malice.
Listen to me. No, he just thought you were a schlemiel.
Uh-oh.
He just thought you were a schlemiel. He didn't realize that you were a scam artist. There's a difference between being a schlemiel and a scam artist. Let's say you go into somebody's house that's having a tag sale and you see this comic book in a big old bin of junk that they say, listen, you can buy the whole barrel of stuff for $10. She says, I'm spending $10. This is worth $20,000. That's how a lot of people get paintings and wonderful pieces of antique stuff, because one man's treasure is another man's junk. You see, me, I wouldn't pay a quarter for this because it just doesn't appeal to me, right? Your wife wouldn't pay a quarter for this unless you told her you'd give her the profit, because she's just not interested. But what you did, sir, you see the statistical probabilities of you auctioning off around the same time 2 of the exact same magazines and one of the ads, putting down here. You have the other ad, by the way?
No, I don't.
No, you don't. You don't. Why wouldn't you have the other ad?
Because I moved and the computer.
Because you moved. Where?
It's on eBay.
Listen to me. Listen to me, sir. Move on this.
Okay.
Judgment for the plaintiff for the amount of $1,500. That's all.
Can I have the comic book back?
Bye.
All these are excuses. You missed up.
Can I have the comic book back?
You may not.
Okay, thank you. Well, I had a client at work that was willing to sell me the book for $3,000.
I was told there is only one in existence. It's owned by a comic shop in Hawaii. Its asking price is $50,000.
Never sold a comic book, never used the eBay before, never sold or bought, and will probably not again.
It's all scam.
5-year-old artist Allison Hannick is suing her former business partner, store owner Deborah Walters, for her fee for making Mardi Gras masks. Deborah claims Allison's workmanship was bad. She is countersuing for the resulting expenses.
Your Honor, this is case number 524 on the calendar in the matter of Hannick versus Walters. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Folks, have a seat, please.
Ms. Hannick, according to your complaint, you and Ms. Walters knew each other and entered into a joint business venture.
Correct.
And the business venture was as follows. Ms. Walters would provide the funds and materials, and you would provide the labor in making Mardi Gras masks that were going to be sold this past year at Mardi Gras. In exchange for your labor, your agreement was that you were to be paid a certain amount per mask at the point that the mask was sold, which was $10. Correct?
Yes.
And how many masks were you supposed to make?
We were trying to make 1,500 masks.
And then there came a point when Miss Walters, according to you, said she no longer required your services for one reason or another. At that point, Miss Walters said, I'm only going to give you $2 per mask.
Yes.
Your Honor, that is incorrect. Completely incorrect, because we never talked about a set amount.
That's what she says.
She's incorrect.
And you had completed 275 masks?
Yes.
And she gave you $100?
Yes.
That's also incorrect. I have receipts.
So at that point, you say she owed you $550. She gave you $100, leaving a balance of $450.
Right.
Then you say she didn't pay you the $450, so now you're suing her for the entire amount.
Yes.
Which is, whatever, $2,500.
Yes.
Ms. Walters says that the work that you performed was substandard. You had a lousy work ethic. She is counterclaiming for the losses she incurred as a result of you not completing the work in a timely fashion and in a substandard fashion. That's her counterclaim. Okay. When did you enter into this business arrangement with Ms. Walters?
It was in August of last year.
And how did you know her?
We met March of last year. I hired her to make a pair of leather moccasin boots. I ended up working with her on and off, apprenticing for about 2 months.
Okay, so that's how you knew it. And the arrangements, I think that you both agree on, that you were supposed to make 1,500 masks, that you were going to be paid $10 a piece at the point of sale. Was that
That is not correct. We were going to split half of the net profit after expenses, because some of these masks would have only been $10.
Just a second. So you say your agreement was that you were going to split the profits 50-50.
After the costs.
You invested a certain amount in materials.
An extreme amount in materials.
Okay. When did you start working on the masks?
I arrived back in town on November 12th.
Where had you been?
I was out east doing another job managing a Renaissance booth. And
How long did you think it was going to take you to make these masks? Mardi Gras is sometime in January, is that right?
February.
February?
Yeah.
February.
We agreed that we could probably get it done within 2 or 3 months' time.
Your Honor, I've been making these masks.
At what point did Miss Walters tell you she didn't want you to work anymore?
I left for Christmas. It was December 28th, I believe, is when I got back. And I talked to her on the phone, and she said she was having a change of heart. She needed a few days to think about it. So I gave her a few days. I came back into the shop, and she said that she had already hired somebody else to go to Mardi Gras, and she didn't want me to go.
Okay, Miss Hannock.
Yeah.
Between November and December,
Yeah.
you had made 275 masks.
Yes.
In 2 months.
Yes.
Then you had, at most, 1 more month to make 1,200 masks.
Yes.
How did you plan on doing that, my dear?
Well, see, that's the thing.
That's my question.
Most of November, there were no materials. I got back November 12th. She had half a skin. I made 54 masks out of that. She did not order any more materials until November 30th. And I was pressing her. I was like, we have a lot to do. I have a lot of work to do. I can't work if there's nothing to work on.
Shh, just a second. When did you leave for Christmas?
I left on the 23rd.
At the last minute?
If you interrupt again, I'm going to rule against you. Do you understand?
Yes, Your Honor.
This is not a tea party. So she's going to have an opportunity to tell me her side of the story. Then it's going to be your turn. So you're going to have to learn to control yourself.
Yes, Your Honor.
That's the second time you said yes, Your Honor. Third time, you're out of here. Do you understand? Good. And that means your counterclaim is dismissed, and that means that she will be successful. Understood? Good. Okay. Now I forgot where I was. Do you remember where I was?
I have no idea.
Yeah. Somebody put a period. Okay. So far, I have 275 masks completed at the time when she said, I don't need your help anymore.
Yeah.
And how much do these masks sell for?
About $20 at the cheapest.
Is that correct?
That is not correct. The base price is $10.
Can I see an example of some of the masks that she completed? Is that one? Can I see it, please? And is this the condition which she turned it in?
Oh, yes.
Is that correct?
I don't know that that's my work.
It is.
Okay, well, if you don't know and she's saying it is, then I have to assume that it is. Can I see an example of finished work that you think is quality work? Because that's one of your complaints.
Would you like me to take it off? I brought this one purposely because it is the most simplest design. It doesn't have a lot of abstract work. But if you'll notice, I brought the template.
Can I please see a couple of other examples of what she turned into?
Can. We actually used this one as the poster child after Allie was gone for what not to do.
Little Phantom of the Opera.
Well, it's not supposed to be the Phantom of the Opera. It does look like half a mask, though, doesn't it?
Okay. I see that some of these are finished with this in it.
Yes, the straps go on very last because they don't get the straps on until after I color them.
I see. So it was your responsibility to color them, her responsibility to prepare these.
That was just the beginning of her responsibility. To receive half of the net profit, I have with me a 16-step process which includes and is not limited to just the tracing and the molding of these masks. It goes on for 18 more steps.
Well, I have only so many good years left in my life, so I'm not interested in reading your 16 pages. All I want to know is, when she turned in the masks, what did you say to her and what did she say to you?
I said to her that I had a change of heart, that I could not trust her with all of these masks to go to New Orleans. She was incompetent, and that I would be willing to give her $2 a mask for the masks that she produced. That was before I inspected them all. Once I inspected them, I realized they weren't worth $2 a mask.
When did you tell her that?
That was sometime in January.
Okay. You're stuck. You're stuck with $2.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Hannock says her former business partner, Deborah Walters, never paid her for making leather Mardi Gras masks. Deborah says the masks were of poor quality.
Now, at what point do you allege that she gave you $100?
It was probably like the second week of January.
Tell me under what circumstances she gave you the $100.
Well, we had the conversation after I went to the shop, and she offered me $2, and I was like, well, I want to see something for all the work I've done. I went a week after that, and she gave me the $100. I just walked into the store, she handed me the check, and I walked out. She had said that she would have to pay me $100 a week because that was her financial budget. I tried to contact her the next week, couldn't get a hold of her, and then finally when I got a hold of her, it was after Mardi Gras, and she had said, well, you know, Mardi Gras didn't go as well as I had hoped, so I don't feel that I have to pay you anything.
Okay. Ms. Walters, I believe you when you say that this was going to be a joint venture. You probably had the conversation of, we'll split the profits 50-50 after my expenses. However, there was a settlement, and the settlement was when you broke up this joint venture that you would be paid $2 a mask for the work that you did in fact complete. So that's not $2,500, that's $450 because she gave you $100. Now you have a counterclaim. I want you to explain the counterclaim to me, and I don't want you to go into the amount of money that you lost as a result of her poor workmanship, because as far as I'm concerned, you had these masks in your possession. You had an opportunity to inspect them. You made an agreement with her, despite the fact that you say, well, after I looked at them, I saw that they weren't worth $2 a piece. You made the arrangement. If you made a bad arrangement, that's not her fault. Now, you have another part of your counterclaim, and that is that you advanced her some money.
Yes, I did. I have
that I want to hear.
Well, I had to pay her rent for her to be able to stay in town.
Just a second. Tell me about the conversation where she said she needed rent money.
Immediately upon getting into town on the 12th, as she said, she owed the person who she worked for before, red flag, $300, and I had to pay basically to get her out of hock from her last job for $300. That's this particular
check. Just a second. I don't understand.
Then the next check.
You're not listening. You're not paying attention to me. Don't have your own agenda. My agenda is the only one that counts. I don't understand. I had to get her out of hock from her last job. That's a conclusion. What did she say to you, and what did you say to her?
She said, I owe him $300. I need to pay him. This will be a draw from our Mardi Gras fund at the end.
What was the $300 for?
She paid me $300, but she paid me, I worked a Renaissance fair with her. She paid me $75 a day for each day. It was 3 days. And she was paying me $8 an hour to work in her store on all of these projects that she had to get done.
I never had her as an employee in my store.
The reason she's saying that is because I never filled out any W-2s.
Okay. How come from December until now you didn't file a claim against her for this $300?
I was not planning on suing her. I was going to eat my losses, but once she brought me to court, I feel that it's only fair. If she wants to sue me for half of the profits, she should be responsible for half of the loss.
Well, she's not going to be responsible for half the loss. Is that what you wanted to pay for? She's not responsible for half the loss.
Well,
you
that's
settled with
what
her.
My counterclaim is.
I thought your counterclaim encompassed these loans that you made for her. If you say not?
My counterclaim is for $2,100 to try to recoup some of my losses.
Okay. Ms. Walters, then you make my job much easier. If what you're suing for is for half your losses, what I have found is the two of you settled whatever business venture this was when you agreed to pay her $2 a mask and she agreed to accept that amount. And that's the only thing that I'm hearing. I'm not hearing her request for triple that amount based upon what she could have made, and I'm not hearing your counterclaim for half your losses because she didn't do the job to your satisfaction. So I'm entering a judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $450, which represents the amount due and owing to her on your settlement for $2 a mask. Thank you very much. That's all.
Thank you, Your Honor. You may step out.
She came into Prescott after being gone for a while, and it was party time.
Oh, that's not true at all. I was working very hard.
Judge Judy rocks.
I really like Judge Judy. She's pretty cool.
Homemaker Carrie Colmanero is suing her ex-husband, construction worker Michael Maddox, for having her falsely arrested for child abuse. Michael says Carrie spanked their 4-year-old son with a cutting board.
All rise. Yeah, this is case number 91 on the calendar in the matter of Colmanero versus Maddox. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Sir, have a seat, please.
Mrs. Colmanero, you and the defendant used to be married.
Yes.
And you have children together. And it is your claim that your former husband made false claims that you had and continue to abuse the children that you have together. And as a result of one of those claims, you were arrested. You want to be compensated to the tune of $5,000. And Mr. Maddox says that you have a history of child abuse, excessive corporal punishment of the children. He believes that you are still using corporal punishment on the children, and he has every right, and not only the right, but the responsibility as their parent to notify protective services and or the police that his children are at risk. Right?
Yeah, right.
Okay. How long were you married?
5 years.
How many children do you have?
2.
How old are they?
Hayden is 7 and Trevor is 5.
Do you have other children?
Yes, I do.
How old are they?
I have a 13-year-old.
Whose name is?
Is Cody, and a 9-year-old who is Jared.
Those children also live with you?
I do have my son, my 9-year-old lives with me.
Where is Cody?
Cody moved in with his father about 2-3 months ago.
Were any of those 2 children the subjects of child protective proceedings or complaints?
The accusations have been made for all 4 children.
By whom?
By Michael Maddox.
By anyone else?
By my husband. His ex-wife has also made claims.
Well, does your husband have children?
Yes, he does.
How many children does he have?
He has 3 children.
Were there allegations of corporal punishment made by his former wife with regard to his 3 children?
Yes, there has been.
And what were the nature of the complaints that were made by his former wife?
Molestation, different things of that nature.
I'm talking about excessive corporal punishment or corporal punishment. You know what that means?
Okay.
Corporal punishment?
No,
that means hitting excessively or using an instrument to hit.
For Cody, Jared, Hayden, and Trevor, there has been accusations made on all of the children.
To excessive corporal punishment?
Yes.
By Mr. Maddox?
Yes.
And by your husband's former wife?
Yes.
Okay, now we're getting there. When was the allegation made with regard to Trevor and Hayden that caused you to become arrested? Tell me about that incident.
That happened on February 12th.
Okay.
And the children had went to go visit their father that weekend, and later on that night, I had been arrested for abusing my son, my 4-year-old. At the time, he was 4.
Okay, Mr. Maddox, the children were with you for a scheduled weekend visitation?
Yes, they was.
And tell me what happened.
What happened was she used to drop the children off at my sister's house. So when she dropped them off, I came over and I proceeded to pick my children up. I took my sons to my house, and I started to change their clothes. I noticed the bruises. Right then I called.
Noticed the bruises where?
On the buttocks. There was 3 places on the buttocks that they had bruises. This has happened.
What did the bruises look like?
They were small bruises, about a 1/4 inch wide, probably maybe 1 inch or so long, around their butt. So
on both children?
Just one.
Which child?
The youngest one, Trevor.
Did you ask Trevor and or Hayden how that happened?
Yes, I did. They told me their mom spanked them with a paddle.
So who did you call?
I called the police department.
You indicate, Mr. Maddox, that your judgment of divorce, you indicate in your answer, that your judgment of divorce has an unusual paragraph in it with regard to corporal punishment.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have that with you?
I sure do.
I'd like to see it, please.
This wasn't the first time that this has happened.
No, let me see it, and then I'll ask you questions. Okay? Well, there is a paragraph in your judgment of divorce that provides that neither party shall allow the use of corporal punishment upon the children. Was that a negotiated term of the separation agreement?
Well, what happened is I had to remodify it because it started happening before this case, and so I had it put in.
Had there been a history of that before, Mr. Maddox?
Yes, yes, ma'am.
What kind of a history, sir?
One time, right when she started dating Rick, she was living in a different county, and I picked him up, and he had bruises up and down his rear end.
Who?
Trevor had bruises that she was living with him at the time. And so I took him to the county that I was in, the police department. They took pictures. Well, they proceeded to try to find her, but she had came back into Stanislaus County, a different county, and they couldn't go over into that county. So I proceeded to have that, they were, the CPS from the Merced County was checking it out, and so when she moved back into Stanislaus, the case kind of got dropped.
After you called the police, what happened on the 12th of February of 2003?
The officer took the report. He called another officer out, a female officer that takes the pictures, and she proceeded to take pictures. Then he told me that...
Don't tell me what he told you. Oh. Just tell me, did either of the officers that respond speak to either Trevor or Hayden?
They did. They spoke to both the children.
And subsequent to that, they came to your home and arrested you?
That's correct.
Is that right?
That is correct.
When they arrested you, did they take anything from the house?
Yes, they did.
What did they take?
They asked me if I had a paddle, and I said I had a cutting board, which was confiscated. That is what I brought here today. It's my cutting board. You can see that I do use it as a cutting board.
Okay.
It hung in my kitchen. It's in my kitchen today. I did get it back because all allegations were dropped.
When?
That was dropped on March 27th. I have that court.
I'd like to see the court papers, please.
And the DA's information is on the back, which was also
I'd like to
dropped.
Read it.
It's on the back there.
Is this the only write-up? Does anybody have a police report, please?
I have a police report.
I'd like to see the police report. All this says is that the case was dismissed on the DA's motion for insufficient evidence.
Your Honor, I ask. Okay.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Says her ex-husband, Michael Maddox, had her falsely arrested for child abuse. Michael says Carrie spanked their 4-year-old son so hard it left marks.
Is it true that you hit your children with a wooden paddle?
No, it is not true.
Then you're telling me that the police officer who filed this report is a liar. Is that what you're telling me? Did you know the police officer who responded to the scene on the 12th to arrest you? Had you ever seen him before?
I never previously seen him.
So there would be no reason for him to hold or harbor a grudge against you in any way. Is that right?
No.
Is that right? Is that right?
That is correct.
And there would be no reason for you to believe that he would hold or harbor a grudge against your husband in any way?
No.
Is that correct? So you believe that when he filed a police report, he filed a police report that accurately reflected both what he observed and what was said by both you and your husband. That would be a fair statement, would it not?
Yes.
Good. So I'm going to read to you from the police report.
Okay.
Okay? Let's start out with something simple. He responded on the 12th of February, 2003, to the defendant's home. I will paraphrase that part of his report because it is not really germane to what I'm going to tell you. When he got to the defendant's home as a result of the defendant's telephone call, he examined your sons, and he found bruises and marks on Trevor. He then asked both boys, little boys, how that happened, and both boys said to the police officer that Mommy spanked me, and that's all they would say. They said nothing else. There were no marks viewed on Hayden, only on Trevor. But based upon those marks and the statement, they came to your residence. Now, fast forward. Police officer. I asked Carrie, that's your name, isn't it?
Yes.
If she had spanked either of her boys earlier that day. She advised that she had, with a wooden paddle, which was still located in the kitchen. At that point, I placed Carrie into custody for violating Penal Code Section 273, cruelty to a child. I then escorted Carrie out of the residence and secured her in the rear of the vehicle. As I was furthering my investigation, Deputy Jeff and stayed with Carrie as I went back into the residence to interview Colmenero. That's you. I asked if he knew the whereabouts of the wooden paddle. He advised that it was in the kitchen. I followed Colmenero into the kitchen and watched as he retrieved an approximately 12-inch by 13-inch brown wooden paddle from the counter. I asked Colmenero what the paddle was used for. He advised that Carrie uses it to discipline both boys when they get out of line. At approximately 3:30, both boys, he said, were getting out of control and tearing up the house. He was very specific. He watched as Carrie yelled at both boys and grabbed the wooden paddle and then proceeded to spank the victim approximately 2 times and Hayden 2 times for disobeying her. At that point, he didn't see any other physical injuries on either of the children. He also advised, that's him, that the last time Carrie had spanked the boys was 2 days before, on the 10th, at 7 p.m. for the same circumstances. Then the police officer interviewed your 2 older sons, who confirmed all of that. Both boys, your 2 older sons, say that that's your modus operandi. When they get out of line, you take a wooden paddle and you hit them. So my question to you is, first, stand up here. What are you complaining about? What's your lawsuit about?
My lawsuit is due to being arrested, and this has been dropped.
So, can be dropped. You did it.
There was nothing stated in our court custody that this was stated after the fact.
What after the fact? What are you talking about? What's after the fact? That you should not hit children with instruments? Is that what you're telling me? You have to be told not to hit children with instruments?
I am saying that this incident is not. I have the DA's information here, and they have overlooked the children. If you would take a look at this also.
Listen to me, madam. Your husband said that you hit the children with a paddle, correct, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
And you say that that's her standard operating procedure for dealing with the children, correct, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
And that the children had marks as a result of that, at least one of the children, correct?
Correct.
You weren't falsely arrested. The case was ironically, erroneously, stupidly dismissed. For what reason, I don't know. Maybe he had a DA who's got his head up his behind. We do not hit children with instruments. You got it? Goodbye. The case is dismissed.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Well, I think.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Thomas versus Green. Step forward.
Account manager Lizette Thomas is suing her nephew's uncle, customer service rep Antonio Green Sr., for a $1,700 cell phone bill. Lizette says Antonio's son stole her nephew's phone and gave it to a girl.
No, I'd like these 2 young men to come and stand next to their respective parents, guardians. This is your nephew.
Correct.
And you gave him a cell phone.
Yes.
So that he could be in touch with you for emergencies.
Yes.
He lost it.
Correct.
And somehow Mr. Green's son found it. And according to you, Mr. Green's son gave it away.
Yes.
And whoever he gave it away to had a very big mouth. And you got a phone bill for how much?
$1,700.
$1,700. So you want Mr. Green to be responsible for that?
Yes.
Mr. Green says, I didn't use the cell phone. My son didn't use the cell phone. Why should he be responsible?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
When did your aunt give you the cell phone?
Late July.
And why did she give you the cell phone?
for emergencies.
How long did you have it?
About a month.
Until late August?
Yes.
And what happened to it?
I gave it to my coach. We went to a game, and I asked him to hold it, and I left it with him, and we all left.
So what did you do?
I called him and asked him, did he have it? He said yes. I asked him, could he hold it for me? He said yes.
When did you go and get it from him?
I didn't.
Oh, why not?
Because I thought if I told my parents, they were going to think I was irresponsible.
That doesn't make sense, what you just said to me. Could you get there by bus?
Yes.
So why didn't you run right over and get it?
I wasn't thinking that time.
Right. You weren't thinking. Now, what's your first name?
Antonio.
Antonio, how did you get this phone?
I found it in the coach bag, and I gave it to this girl trying to impress her.
Just, okay. Don't go through. We have to do this slowly because I have to get things step by step. You found it in the coach's bag when?
Around late August, around the 28th, during the 1st of September.
When you say you found it in the coach's bag, what were you doing in the coach's bag?
Just going in it, sneaking around.
So you stole the phone out of the bag.
Right.
And what did you do with it when you stole the phone out of the bag?
I gave it to this girl. At that time, it was my girlfriend.
And what did you say to her?
I gave her the phone, told her she could use it.
So, Mr. Green.
Yes, ma'am.
See, this is something he didn't put in his answer, that he stole the phone.
Well, yes, I knew that he retrieved the phone.
Not retrieved.
Well, stole the phone around November when I got the call from Miss Thomas.
Stole it.
Right.
So, what is it that you did to your son when you found out that he stole this phone?
Can I say on air?
Yes.
Whooped him.
How old are you, Antonio?
16.
You go to school?
Yes, ma'am.
How do you do in school?
Good.
Did you ever steal anything before?
Yes, ma'am.
What?
Cars.
How many?
2 of them.
And when you went to court, did your father go with you?
Yes, ma'am.
How many children do you have, Mr. Thomas?
2, ma'am.
How old are they?
He's 16 and my daughter's 15.
She give you any trouble?
No.
So what are you doing about Mr. Trouble?
Well, right now he's in rehabilitation programs in the city, doing counseling session, peer mentoring programs appointed by the court, urine drops and things like that.
He had a drug problem?
Yes, they said he did.
If they said he did, he probably did.
Of course, he denied that, but they said he did.
Well, he's right out here telling me everything that he did. That's a good thing, because he probably knows that I know anyway.
Right.
Right?
Right.
So you better get pretty busy, because you owe this lady $1,700.
Yes, ma'am.
You stole the phone, you gave it to somebody, and you lied to them and said, I got you this phone, you can use it. They used it, as you told them to. I mean, the fact that you couldn't get your behind out of your room to get on a bus and go pick up the phone doesn't make you a prince. Do you understand that?
Yes.
But, I mean, it's your stupidity, but he did it on purpose. He stole it. And then he gave it away, and he said, I bought your present, use it. And you shouldn't have to suffer for that. Mr. Green shouldn't have to suffer for that either. What Mr. Green has to do is he has to harness this boy and send him out there to collect cans. 5 cents a piece, if that's all he can do. Because somehow you got to impress upon him that when he does something wrong, the whole world can't suffer. He's got to suffer.
Right.
You have to suffer. You understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,700. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I was wrong and I was being irresponsible, so I'm happy for them.
I thought the phone was just going to sit in the bag, and maybe the bill will stay low.
Eventually, I thought it would never come up.
I know I'm irresponsible, but I'm glad it came out the way it came out.
With regards to the young lady, a $1,700 phone bill, and maybe she called him twice, so he was getting played either way.
He irresponsibly let it get out of his hands, and it got into the wrong hands, but the judgment was in my favor, and I'm very pleased.
Drug and alcohol counselor Dina Moran is suing her former friend, 22-year-old client service assistant Tasha Turner, for wrecking her Monte Carlo. Tasha says she caught Dina in bed with her boyfriend. She is countersuing for unpaid rent and bills.
All rise. Yeah, this is case number 96 on the calendar in the matter of Moran versus Turner. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ma'am, have a seat, please.
Thank you, Bertie. These two are the saddest people that you've seen in a long time.
I know. I'm like...
It's just a little lawsuit. It's not life-altering. Miss Moran, this used to be your friend, and according to you, you loaned her your car. She crashed your car into a tree. You want her to pay for the damage.
That is correct, Your Honor.
Miss Turner says pay for your own car. I took you into my home. You disrespected me, my home. You didn't pay rent, and she is counterclaiming for rent and utilities for the 3 months that you lived with her.
Yes, Your Honor.
I think we're going to start with your counterclaim.
Okay.
When did Miss Moran move into your home and why?
She ate up my food, ran up my bills, and haven't paid me a dime. And I have a witness here of the verbal agreement that me and her had.
Okay, when did she move out?
She moved out in February, due to the fact that I caught her in the bed with my boyfriend.
Shh. February what?
February 6th. The sleazeball was in the bed with my man.
Okay. Was your boyfriend living with you at the time?
Yes, he was living with me for 5 years.
And what happened to him?
I smacked them both and threw them out my house.
Okay.
And their items.
Shh. Come on. When was she supposed to have started to pay rent?
The minute she moved in. She was claiming to help me because she had just started working at a job.
Did you start to pay rent?
No, Your Honor. She told me that, whenever you get on your feet, I'm willing to take whatever it is that you need, whatever it is that you can afford.
Yeah.
And I told her, I said, not a problem. I'll pay you at the end of the month.
Okay. Did you pay her in January at the end of the month?
Yes, I did, Your Honor.
How much did you give her?
I gave her...
Listen.
Yes, ma'am.
How much did you give her?
Your Honor, I only owed her $250, and I paid her.
You owed her $250 because that was your agreement, that you were going to pay her $250?
The agreement was I was supposed to pay her...
Look at me. Don't look over there.
I'm sorry. I was supposed to pay her at least half, and her rent is $400 and some odd dollars, and I gave her more than half because I paid her $250.
You didn't say that in your papers, and you didn't say that a moment ago, that you had an agreement to pay her half her rent. But now you acknowledge that you had an agreement to pay her half of her rent, and you say that you gave her $250 in January.
At the end of January, that is correct.
Do you have any proof of that?
No, Your Honor. She has the receipts.
Did she give you $250 in January?
No, she did not, Your Honor. She ain't gave me a dime.
Miss Moran, Miss Turner indicated that the reason you left the apartment is because she found you in a compromising position with her boyfriend. Is that accurate?
Your Honor, she really didn't catch me in the bed with him. She caught him coming on to me, and he was on top of me. There was no situation where we were in the bed and we were naked or anything like that.
Okay. So I wasn't as graphic as you just were.
I'm sorry.
I said she caught you in a compromising position
This is true, Your Honor. And I was telling him to get off me, get away from me. You're supposed to be my best friend's boyfriend, and, get away from me.
Okay. Now we're going to get to your claim.
Okay.
When did you loan her your car?
About the end of February.
After she threw you out?
She and I had come to an agreement that, all right, I explained to her the situation as to what she walked in and saw. She walked in and her boyfriend was standing on top of me, and he was like over my face like he wanted to kiss me, and he kept, trying to pull my clothing off and whatnot. And she walked in and seen that, and she and I had talked about it. And I truthfully think, Your Honor, she was using me because the tramp didn't have any money to get a rental car.
Listen to me, please. What I want to know, Miss Turner, is you called Miss Moran and asked to borrow her car.
Yes, I did.
Now, my question is, when it struck me in the papers, because you were very irate at what you saw with the plaintiff and your boyfriend, why would you call her and ask her for a favor to borrow her car if you were so angry?
She was honestly my last resort. I don't want to have anything to do with the slut.
Well, listen to me.
I was on the verge of going to get fired from my job because I had missed days.
I would walk before I would call and ask somebody for a favor who had done something as disrespectful as you allege in your papers.
My job was an hour away. There was no way or nobody would let me borrow their vehicle.
And tell me about the accident that you had.
I was coming home from work around, I get off at 12, so it was around 12:15. I was coming home from work. It was dark at night. I was coming down a one-way street.
What happened was my cell phone was ringing. I went to lean over to answer my cell phone. And when I went to reach over, the car drifted into the left telephone pole. It was on my left-hand side.
So the accident was clearly your fault, right?
I guess.
What do you mean you guess?
It was an accident.
Well, I said the accident was clearly your fault. It wasn't his fault, was it?
No.
Wasn't my fault. I wasn't leaning over to catch the phone.
No.
Wasn't her fault. She wasn't leaning over to get the phone. Right?
You're
It's
right.
your fault.
Yes.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Dina Moran says former friend Tasha Turner wrecked her Monte Carlo. Tasha says Dina slept with her boyfriend.
Madam, when something is your fault, you have to pay for it.
I don't believe I should pay her anything because she owes me money.
Just a second. How much did it cost to fix the car?
Your Honor, it costs...
you have estimates?
Yes, ma'am. I have the estimates, and I also have pictures of the damage.
I want to see it.
I was also inconvenienced. I had to pay for a rental car.
You didn't have to pay for a rental car because you loaned her your car, and I assume you had 2 cars. Is that right?
This is true, but that other car...
This is true. All right. Good.
Yeah, she's lying, trying to get more money.
Your Honor,
I'm sorry.
I also have...
I didn't ask you anything. Okay, so the damage is $29.54 to the car. There's substantial damage to the car. Pretty nasty pictures. Okay. Now, clearly, she doesn't owe you anywhere near $3,000.
Well, she owes me for the fact that I had to kick my boyfriend out, and he was helping me pay my bills also. And now I can't afford to pay my credit card bills. My license is about to get suspended because I can't pay my fine.
Your Honor, if she...
I didn't ask you anything.
I do apologize.
Ms. Turner.
Yes.
I read that interesting and novel part of your lawsuit.
Yes.
That because of the compromising position you found your boyfriend and the plaintiff in, you threw him out.
Yes, I did.
And it's her fault that you had to throw him out.
Yes, it is.
So you want her to pay what he was paying you in rent, not only what she was supposed to pay you, but what he was paying you, which is well over $3,000.
Yes. If you look at my credit card bill, Your Honor.
Listen to me, my dear.
Yes.
If your boyfriend is a dog, he's a dog.
Well, he wasn't a dog till she moved in.
I want to tell you something. A dog is a dog is a dog.
Okay.
If it wasn't her, it would be somebody else. She was just convenient.
She came on.
Listen to me. She was just convenient. And certainly, you're not married to this man. There is no lawsuit for alienation of affection because you don't have a commitment to this guy, and he didn't have a commitment to you.
Well, I was with him for 5 years.
Boyfriend is not husband.
Okay.
If you were with him for 5 years, how come you weren't married?
He didn't propose to me.
That should have given you a clue. That should have been a clue in year 2, not year 5. Okay. The fact that he wasn't committing to you and still looking around to see what else was out there should have been evident to you. The fact that you were with him, committed to him, but he wasn't committed enough to propose, right?
You're right.
Good. Okay. She owes you $250 because I don't believe she gave you $250. So I'm deducting the $250 from the $29.54, which leaves $2,704, if my math is correct.
You got it.
Thank you very much, judgment for the plaintiff.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
He was a dog anyway, so, you know, a dog is a dog. If he cheats, he cheats. He's always going to do it.
I caught her in bed with him. They were both together in bed giving him...
When there's something as fine as me in front of him, that it's a problem.
I think she came on to him because she's like that. She flaunts herself around town like that.
She was drunk. She told me she's coming home at 12 o'clock from work. She wasn't working until 12.
She was my best friend for 9 years, but the tramp isn't anymore.
She was out at the club, and I know she was out at the club because we party all night when we do party.
Don't trust your best friend around your man.
It's a sad thing to say. You know, they claim they're your friend, but they'll wreck your car in the end, so you better watch.
Angela Landy is suing her former employee, Alishani Wyatt, for stealing clients and breaching their employment agreement.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Hello, Judge. Case 2112, Landy versus Wyatt.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Miss Wyatt, when did you become an esthetician?
I was licensed as an esthetician in March of 2021.
Okay. Miss Landy, this is what your case is about. You hired Miss Wyatt for your business. You have a spa business? Is that what it is?
Yes, Your Honor.
How long have you had the business?
I've been in operations as an S Corp since 2016. I worked for myself as a sole proprietor since 2009.
How many employees did you have in 2020 and 21?
In 2020, it was during the pandemic. We were shut down most of the time. In 2021, there was up to 5 employees, not including myself, Your Honor. It was 6 of us total.
Does that include Miss Wyatt?
It does, Your Honor.
When did she start working for you?
She started working for me in February of 2021 as a receptionist. I hired her as a receptionist.
Okay. Not an esthetician?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. Were you going to school at the time?
I was not hired in February. I didn't get my license until March of 2021.
What the plaintiff says is you were hired in February. She probably has documents to work as a receptionist.
I was not hired. I didn't even have my license then.
Did you have any proof that she started in February?
Your Honor, I have proof that she...
Was she on your payroll?
She was on my payroll.
Okay, so that's
what we have document of in that is that she started brand new as a receptionist. Maybe it was in March of 21.
Okay.
I have my first paycheck stub.
I'd like to see it.
Okay.
This is a pay stub from April.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Okay. This is your claim. Your claim is that when Miss Wyatt came to work for you, subsequently as an esthetician, which she was, because she counted her among your 6 employees in 2021, that she had signed a contract which provided for certain restrictions should she leave. You don't have that contract.
I cannot find it. It was supposed to be.
You don't have that contract.
Nope.
Miss Wyatt, when you went to work for the plaintiff, do you recall signing a document?
I do recall signing documents stating like what my job title was and like the documents that would go towards what we went over and things like that for training purposes.
Okay.
Your Honor, I have non-solicitation, non-disclosure agreement documents of employees. There's 4.
Okay. Is this an employee of yours?
No, it is not, Your Honor.
Ever? Was ever?
Never been an employee.
Were either one of those 2 people employees, former employees?
Tabitha Brown was.
Was this a former employee of yours?
Tabitha Brown was a former employee.
At approximately the same time?
She was an employee of mine for 5 years up until April 17th, Your Honor.
Did she voluntarily leave or did you?
She voluntarily left.
Okay. Did she voluntarily leave to go to work with the defendant?
I did not know that until the day defendant left.
But ultimately you determined that she did?
Sure did.
Okay. She was with you for 5 years?
Sure. Yes.
I assume that if you have a business and you don't have this contract, which you allege if you could produce, had a specific non-compete clause in it, but you don't have it. She remembers signing something, but she doesn't remember exactly what it was. Can you stand up? Tell me your name.
Tabitha Brown.
Miss Brown, did you sign a contract when you went to work for the plaintiff?
Yes, I didn't remember that I did.
You did?
Yes.
But you did?
Yes.
Okay. Do you have a copy of her?
I sure do. And
just a second.
Okay.
Do you have a copy of it?
I don't.
No, but you have a copy of what she signed?
Yes.
I'd like to see it.
Your Honor.
No. Just let me see the copy. I'm trying to reconstruct something just to get some general parameters of this case. Tabitha Brown, March 22nd, 2022.
Yes.
Different.
Oh.
That is not the non-solicitation, non-disclosure agreement. That's a different agreement. Those are contracts she has signed.
Oh, well, you gave me 2 things. What is this?
One is her non-disclosure, non-solicitation, and also the second one is the role definition of an esthetician working for me.
Looking at the non-compete. Okay, this is pretty standard. Kevin, would you show this to Miss Brown? And I also want you to show it to Miss Wyatt. That clearly your signature.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. And so that says within 1 year of your leaving Miss Landy's employment, you will not work in a related field within 7 miles from her current place of business.
Yes.
When you left her employment, did you go to work with Miss Wyatt?
We left to share. Yes.
The answer is either yes or no. So you did. You
Yes.
went to work with Miss Wyatt. And when you went with Miss Wyatt, that was sometime in 2022.
Yes, ma'am.
What month?
May of 2022.
Your Honor, that's incorrect.
Shh. Don't. I'm not needing your help.
Okay.
In this case, you don't have a physical signed contract, so I don't see why you think that you have all documentation.
I don't have documentation.
That's what I'm saying.
Due to the fact that I believe she stole the information out of my filing cabinet.
I still have to pinch myself to really believe it. You don't get better if you win all the time. You look at yourself more when you lose.
I'm thinking of my daughter today. I miss her so much. This is making me want to be more adventurous for her, definitely.
Yeah. If by the last episode true love is not achieved, Drama World will cease to exist. What? It's up to us to stop it.
Angela Landy claims her former employee, Alashani Wyatt, stole clients and breached their employment agreement.
Now, does Miss Wyatt have a location, a shop, a store, a place of business, or does she operate out of her residence?
We share a space.
You share a space where?
At a salon studios in Valencia.
Have you calculated the distance between that space and Miss Landy's office?
I have, ma'am.
And how far is it?
3.4 miles.
Well, you're not allowed to do that, pursuant to the terms of your agreement.
Correct. I don't have a copy of that agreement, ma'am.
Well,
I have it now, but at the time I didn't. It's from 5 years ago, and I never received a copy of that. So it was.
I don't know whether you received a copy of it or not. It's your signature, and it's pretty standard fare. Mm-hmm. It's not that it's not standard fare. So, Miss Wyatt, what I have to do is sort of put together whether or not I believe that you, in fact, had the same document that you signed.
Correct.
And I believe that you did.
Okay.
Despite the fact she says that you probably took it when you left. I can't describe that conduct to her. But this is pretty standard fare, that within 1 year it's not too onerous, it's not within a 50-mile radius, it's a 7-mile radius. 3.5 miles is certainly well within that. You could have found some place that was 8 miles away, and then we wouldn't be in this difficulty. But you didn't. Anyway, so you were in violation of your contract when you left and went to work and shared space with Miss Wyatt. Okay, but you're not suing her.
No, ma'am.
Why?
Because I know the case would be dismissed because of the lack of solicitation between clients and of a former employee.
Well, not necessarily. Those two stand alone.
Your Honor, if I may say, there was a small claims action against Tabitha, but because there was no evidence.
What do you mean there was no evidence?
I had no evidence, the way I have evidence today with Alashani, that Tabitha solicited clientele.
Okay. Now you can sit down.
Thank you.
So that small claims case was dismissed?
Yeah, I have nothing there, which I learned. I have nothing to stand on what I have to stand on today.
Well, what you had to stand on, Miss Landy, which I don't understand, you had a non-compete agreement with her. She's in violation of that agreement. That's all you need. And she violated this agreement. She went to work within 7 miles of your place of business. So I don't understand that. In this case, you don't have a physical signed contract. I have to reconstruct whether I believe that there was one. So I don't see why you think that you have all documentation.
I don't have documentation.
That's what I'm saying.
Due to the fact that I believe she stole the information out of my filing cabinet.
I don't know whether she did or not. Right now, you say it's a lost document. You can't find it.
Correct.
Okay. And the defendant acknowledges, and it's usually custom and practice in the business, to sign a non-compete when you have that kind of service industry. Right. And I'm prepared to accept judicial notice of the fact that when you go to work for a beauty salon or a hair salon or a spa, you develop a clientele within the spa. You can't open up a store next door and steal the clients. Most people have people sign this, and you did, and you had it done 5 years ago. So Ms. Brown is in violation of this contract.
That is correct.
Why somebody dismissed that, I don't know. I have no idea. Okay, so now you're going to demonstrate to me that Miss Wyatt solicited clients of yours.
Yes,
Show
Your
me.
Honor. Okay, in July of 2021, Alashani was trained to be an esthetician.
Let's not go back to ground zero. I'm not interested. I am assuming for the purposes of this hearing that she signed a non-compete clause, just as Ms. Brown did. So let's start from there, and I asked you a very simple question. I said, what proof do you have that she solicited clients when she left?
Your Honor, my solicitation is here.
Fine, I'd like to take a look at it.
And my witness, Kennedy, is here as well.
Well, let's go to Miss Kennedy. Was Miss Kennedy a client of yours?
Yes, Your Honor.
Would you stand up, please? Your first name?
Kennedy. Kennedy.
Last name?
Johnson.
Ms. Johnson, how long had you been a client of Miss Landy's spa?
I want to say about 2019, Your Honor. I was there before the pandemic and was there for a while before it shut down due to COVID.
Were you there after it reopened?
Yes.
After COVID. What kind of work do you have done there?
I get sugared, which is using sugar, lemon, and I believe it's honey and water, and you mix it together and it takes hair off of you.
And who did that for you?
I went through many of the clientele and the employees at Angela's shop at the time. So there were several people that, Alicia was one of them, as well as Tabitha.
How many times did the defendant do the waxing? Sugaring.
I want to say at least 5 times.
Do you recall when she left Miss Landry's?
I do not remember the date. However, I do remember getting a call from her company. I got a call saying...
From Miss Landry's company?
Yes.
Yes.
Your Honor, it's Landy.
Landy.
Yes, from Miss Landy's company. They had called me on my cell phone and told me that she was no longer there. And they had told me she was no longer there.
You can't tell me what somebody from her shop told you. That's hearsay. I want to know about the solicitation. If there was.
Yes. So one point while Alicia, the defendant, was there.
Sorry. Do you understand?
Yes. While the defendant was there, I had gotten sugared on my face. It was a small patch test, And after she had texted me, gave me her personal number, and told me if I had any reaction to text her and let her know. After I texted her, I had...
And this was while she was working for the plaintiff?
Yes, that is correct.
Go ahead.
And as a while, I started having a small reaction, and I had texted her and sent her a picture of my face and told her that I was starting to have a small reaction. I did not receive anything back for a little bit, and then I want to say around April, late March.
Well, when did you text her?
This text for the face patch was earlier, I want to say early March, maybe February.
Do you have the text?
I believe she gave it to you.
The third one, Your Honor.
What date did Miss Wyatt leave your employ?
April 22nd is when I got her immediate resignation.
April 22nd, 2022. And is this what you're referring to? Hey, Kennedy, I forgot to tell you, if you wanted to book with me again, I could put you in my books. I'll be in Valencia.
That's correct.
And is Valencia where your shop is?
3.2 miles away, Your Honor.
No. Answer my question. I have a question. Is Valencia where your shop is?
No.
That's my question. Why don't you just answer my question?
Okay.
Tell me what she told your attorney. Do you understand?
Even if I have an affidavit?
Is your attorney in the military?
No, I just have a notarized affidavit.
From whom?
My attorney.
Her? No, I don't take affidavits from attorneys. Okay. It's ridiculous.
Business owner Angela Landy has accused her former employee, Alashani Wyatt, of taking her clients and breaking their agreement.
So Valencia is not where your shop is. Valencia is where your place of business is.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. So you left on the 22nd, is that correct?
That's correct.
On the 20th, 2 days before, you tell Miss Kennedy, because I assume that this was a planned move of yours, that she could reach you again at your new place of business in Valencia.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, well, you're not allowed to do that.
During the services, it's a very intimate service, so you start to gain a relationship with these clients. And through that time, I felt like I had gained a relationship. It wasn't just a client with Kennedy. So
You met her?
Yes.
Through the plaintiff?
Yes, Your Honor.
You started to work on her through the plaintiff?
Yes, Your Honor.
She had other people work on her other than you?
Yes.
She may have liked you. better than the other people. That doesn't diminish the fact that you knew that you weren't supposed to solicit clients. You knew that. I believe that you knew that.
Yes.
Because that's standard fare. So your excuse is you thought you developed a personal relationship with her.
Correct, Your Honor.
How many other people did you develop a personal relationship with?
Majority of the clients that I had who were returning clients of mine, I felt like I had built personal relationships with.
If you're potchking around with somebody's face or scrubbing their body or giving them a scrub to get hair off on every part of the body, then you develop an intimate relationship with somebody. Now, your first name is Kennedy?
Yes.
Kennedy, did you ever go out to dinner with Miss Wyatt?
No, I did not.
She ever invite you to her house?
No, she did not.
Was the only time you ever saw Miss Wyatt while you were having a service?
That is correct.
You see, that's not an intimate relationship. That's just stealing clients, Miss Wyatt.
Okay.
So my question to you is, you're seeking damages, okay? Did you seek injunctive relief?
No, Your Honor.
Why not?
I didn't know about injunctive relief. In addition, because of the staff leaving, because of solicitation, admitted solicitation by Alashani to my attorney, and I have a sworn affidavit for that. Because of that, I ordered them a cease and desist, and they ignored the cease and desist. Alashani told my attorney that she did not.
No, you can't
solicit
you can't tell me what she told your attorney. Do you understand?
Even if I have an affidavit?
Is your attorney in the military?
No, I just have a notarized affidavit.
From whom?
My
From
attorney.
Her? No, I don't take affidavits from attorneys. It's ridiculous. Are you still in operation, Miss Wyatt?
Yes, Your Honor.
How many people work for, with, or to you?
It's just me. I have my own personal LLC, and she has her own personal LLC, so none of our money is combined.
Miss Wyatt, how many of your former clients from Miss Landy's business followed you?
I would say a good portion. I don't have an exact number.
Yes.
Here you go.
Now, just tell me.
I would say at least.
No.
No, I'm sorry.
I don't want you to say I would say at least. I assume you have names, people.
I have names and people. Here.
How many of your clients 20. Went to Miss Wyatt?
20.
Not was solicited. Follow me very carefully. Not solicited by her, but actually left your business to go with her.
Actually left my business to go with her.
20.
Yes, Your Honor.
I'd like to see. Does that sound right, Miss Wyatt?
Yes, Your Honor.
Then I don't have to see. She says that that's about right.
Your Honor, I would also like to add that after I left, she did send out a mass text allowing all of the clients who had ever seen me to be aware that I was no longer there. So that also allowed more clients to reach out to me in different aspects.
No, my dear, you made the mistake.
Okay.
You made the mistake by opening up an office within a 7-mile radius, which you can't do.
Okay.
You solicited her clients. I thought maybe just 1 or 2, but 20, that's a lot of clients. 20 recurring clients is a lot of clients. Miss Landy's request in her small claims case is the maximum of the jurisdiction, which is $10,000. And I think that she deserves every penny of that.
Okay.
Because what you did was wrong and a breach of your contract with her. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $10,000.
Thank you, Your Honor.
This court is adjourned.
And I have to tell you something. That's ongoing.
Okay.
Just so that you're aware.
I felt like the work environment was very unstable.
I have so many people to testify, including employees, that it's not a hostile work environment.
And I was constantly anxious there.
I was doing so much to improve the quality of the business by changing policies and procedures.
I had to do what was best for me and my family. I'm a single mom, so
hiring a business coach, working with an HR team.
Let the better business win, I guess.
The better business has won.
I was a little bit confused. Maybe you can shed some light on it for me. Why the plaintiff wouldn't sue for injunctive relief, because injunctive relief is suing not so much for damages, but to get someone to stop doing something. So in this case, it seemed to me that the proper ask, per se, would be injunctive relief to stop the defendant from operating her business in violation of her contract. But she didn't do that. She sued for damages instead. And I just think that this same problem could keep happening, that I think it's a good lesson for people to educate themselves or hire a lawyer to find the proper relief. Because what's to say that this is going to stop today? I'm sure she'll keep seeing the 20 clients.
Well, she's going to keep seeing the 20 clients. Mm-hmm. This judgment today was more compensatory than punitive, because if she had taken one client with her, well, she's in violation of the contract, and some token violation would have been appropriate, but she took 20 clients with her.
I got the feeling from you that you weren't exactly in line with the $10,000 number until you heard
Until
about
I heard
20
the 20.
clients.
I mean, that's really
whole business,
some
really.
sort of chutzpah to knowing, and I believe she absolutely knew, she was a smart cookie, knowing that you had a non-compete, because her friend, who she also took with her, had the same documents signed in 2017. So, and she's clearly a businesswoman, so that would be a consistent practice of hers. I don't know who took the contract out of the file cabinet. It's for another day. I reconstructed it. I actually don't know why she wouldn't sue for injunctive relief as well as punitive damages. It would have been an option for her.
Yeah.
Parties, please step forward.
Fenshia Jenkins is suing her former roommate, Victoria Barnes, for rent and a security deposit.
Miss Jenkins, you were a short-term roommate of the defendants.
Yes, ma'am.
She put an ad on the internet.
Yes, it was in a Facebook group. I was referred by my college. It was for subleasing, rentals, apartments of that sort.
A room?
Yes.
Do you have a copy of the ad?
I actually do.
I would love to take a look at it.
No problem.
What college do you go to?
University of Alabama at Birmingham.
Miss Barnes, you were pretty specific in this. It says it's average about $800 a month. Utilities included, unfurnished, looking for a female roommate, sublease, personal, bedroom and bathroom, pool, tennis, laundry site. Must be willing to complete a background check.
Yes.
Okay. And did you go to look at the room?
Yes, ma'am.
On what date?
It was the same day that I signed the sublease, which was, I'm so sorry.
It was February the 10th.
No, I moved in on February the 10th. That is incorrect. We signed our sublease on, I believe it was actually maybe January 22nd.
Does it have a date on it?
This only has the date for when I will be moving in and
May
moving
I
out.
please see it?
The date is on the signature page.
Okay. It's on the last page of that packet.
You don't have to help her prove her case.
I want to make sure she got it right.
You don't have to help her prove her
Yes,
case.
ma'am.
Well, who crossed this out? It says subleasee is one of, first it said one, that's crossed out, and then it said two total tenants occupying the premises.
I did cross that out because it is two of us. And I accidentally wrote one of one, but it's two of us total. And that was crossed out on the date that I signed it.
Is that correct?
Yes, it was quite a few pages on there.
So it was agreed that there would only be the two of you occupying the premises.
Not completely correct.
That's what it says, that there would be two people
Yes, ma'am.
occupying the premises. Am I correct?
In the initial agreement, I made it clear that...
No clear. This says the subleasee's interest in the sublessee is one of two total tenants occupying the premises. That's what the lease says, which means there are only two people, according to this sublease, which is signed, who will be occupying the premises. That's all it says. I haven't finished the next page yet. But that's what the lease says. Not what you made clear, not what you might have said outside of this. This is what's binding.
Okay.
And this indicates that the subleasee, that's you,
Yes, ma'am.
does not need to obtain her permission.
Not at all.
Overnight guests, which would make sense that she doesn't need your permission to have overnight guests.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. This is what your case is about. Now I've read this agreement. You moved in February 10th?
Yes, ma'am.
And started to have difficulty because Miss Barnes has a boyfriend. That would be you.
Yes, ma'am.
And he was there a lot.
No, that was not a problem.
Well, according to you, it was a problem when he had his own key.
Yes.
And he came, according to you, unannounced.
Yes, ma'am. Alone.
Well, it doesn't say that he has to be announced. I can understand it if he was occupying the residence with his own key and there all the time. That certainly would be in violation of the lease. Would you stand up for a second? Tell me your name, sir.
It's Sean White.
Are you and the defendant currently living together now?
No.
Have you ever lived together?
No.
Can you tell me why it would be that you would have a key to her premises?
Well, she is my fiance. We've been together almost...
Because she's your fiance?
Yeah.
When did she become your fiance?
Around a year ago.
And is there any reason why you're not living together?
Yes. In recent...
Yes. You're going to tell me.
Yes, ma'am. I'll tell you. In recent events, I just lost my father, and I'm trying to launch my trucking company and get that off the ground, so it's just wouldn't be the best thing right now.
How far is your residence from your fiance's?
About an hour and a half.
And her residence from your business?
I'm a truck driver, so I'm always mobile, but where I load at, she's usually close to it.
And that's when you stay at the house?
Yeah.
And how many times a week do you load your truck?
Close to her, maybe 2 or 3 times.
2 or 3 times a week?
Yeah.
So that means that you're spending either 2 or 3 nights a week at her house?
Yes.
Yes. And that's been going on for how long, sir?
Just this year.
So far, we're doing fine. You see, I don't yell unless someone provokes me. He seems like a very nice.
Then Shia Jenkins claims her former roommate, Victoria Barnes, owes for rent and a security deposit.
Mr. White, do you keep a certain amount of clothes at Miss Barnes' apartment?
No, Your Honor, they're usually in my truck.
When you're going to stay over, do you bring up a bag or do you bring up a backpack? What do you bring up with you?
A bag and a backpack.
Do you have toiletries in her bathroom?
No, ma'am.
You carry that with you?
Yes.
Now, when you're on the road, if you stay over 2 or 3 days a week at Miss Barnes's house and you're on the road, how many days a week are you on the road and sleeping either in your truck or at a motel or at a truck stop?
Between 2 and 3 days. It's all depending on where I go.
So that brings us to maybe 5 days a week or 6 days a week. And where is your home?
Aforementioned 1 hour.
Is that where your father lives?
I'm sorry, but he's passed.
Oh, he passed?
Yes.
Okay, so the house that you're staying in is his house?
Yeah.
Anybody else live there?
My mother.
So that 1 day a week you stay with your mom?
It's usually probably a Sunday when I don't have anything to do.
Do you stay at your mother's house?
Yes, that's my primary residence. Like it's maybe two days out of the week.
Mr. White, this is what we're getting. You see where we're starting to smile now? If you see your mother on Sundays and you're on the road half the week and you're at the defendant's house half a week, you can tell me from today until the cows come home that your mother's house is your primary residence. But if you look at it objectively, put your hand down. If you look at it objectively, you're on the road part-time. When you're not on the road, 3 times as many days a week you stay at her house. 1 day you stay at your mother's house, and you tell me that that's been going on since the beginning of the year, which would be January or so of 2022. That's what you just told me, and that actually makes sense.
I beg to differ, though. Like, the time that I stay there, it might be 8 hours, and then I'm back on the road.
I don't care.
And it's like maybe 2 days out of the week.
Now you can sit down, Mr. White. Wait. Okay, I get the scenario, and not unusual, you were unhappy with this more frequent access than you were advised of.
May I add, I was not unhappy with how much he was there. It was only the fact that he had came in by himself and she hadn't let me know. I only had told her that that made me uncomfortable, and I got kicked out for it.
That's not true, Your Honor.
Well, when you say got kicked out, I think you acknowledged that you gave her a 30-day notice to leave.
Yes, ma'am, I did.
And other than this issue of house guests, were there any other issues that you had with her?
When the situation happened, she texted me and asked me where I was. I told her when I got home that we can have a conversation, and that's when an argument ensued, and multiple arguments happened after that.
Were they all about house guests?
Just about, yes, ma'am.
And at the beginning, they were all about Mr. White.
Right.
Okay. And your sublease agreement actually specifically says that only 2 people are living there.
Yes, ma'am.
And Mr. White has already made it crystal clear to me that he spends his time either on the road or at your house visiting his mom on Sunday. And that sort of makes this fuzzy. Okay, anyway, it didn't work out. He seems like a very nice man, nothing that frightens me.
Thank you.
Right?
Thank you.
And he visits his mother on Sunday. The guy is a hero. Perfect for you.
Thank you.
So you moved out, you got another apartment, whatever it is. I don't know what you want from her.
I want the money that I gave her, period. And
what money?
So she made me pay her security deposit.
No, just a second.
Yes, ma'am.
Security deposit.
Yes.
Fine. Did you get your security
No, ma'am.
deposit back?
Absolutely not.
How much was your security deposit?
$350.
Okay. Did you return her security deposit?
No, ma'am.
Okay. You have to return her security deposit.
Well, be it as though she left the room damaged, I didn't feel like I needed to.
You have photographs of the damage?
I have stained carpets.
Just a second. Do you have photographs of the damage?
No, ma'am.
Good. $350. She gets her security deposit back.
Yes, ma'am.
What's next?
The remainder of the rent for the month that I moved out, which I moved out within.
Just a second.
Yes.
Did you pay her March's rent?
Yes, ma'am.
You did?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. You paid that the beginning of the month?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And how much did you pay her?
$630.
Incorrect.
Clearly paid you February's rent when she moved in.
Yes, ma'am.
Did she pay you March's rent?
So she gave me...
That's either a yes or a no. If she paid you March's rent, did you get 2 months' rent from the plaintiff?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And she moved out.
Can I explain why I don't feel like I'm entitled to give her the money back? Because the apartment complex, when we got into the initial argument and I was made aware of the slander and the allegations that she was portraying against Sean and myself, I was told that being as though I made it legal on paper that she has 30 days to the resident, that she would still access to my apartment for the remainder of the month of March until the 17th of April. And also Sean has seen her sending people to my house, her coming in and out of my house when I was at work, supposedly gathering her things, but my personal belongings came up missing.
Oh,
and she had access.
Hold on 1 second. After March 17th, did you have any property in the apartment? Just be very careful what you say to me. After March 17th, you say you physically left the apartment. Did you have any property there? That's either a yes or a no.
May I confirm the date so I just don't give you false information? Okay, thank
Yes.
you. So the very last day that I was there was...
March 22nd.
Shh. You keep doing that. You keep doing that.
I'm sorry.
Okay, good.
Okay, so the very last day that I was there was on, I believe, March 20th.
Oh, then you owe for the month of March. Then you get your security deposit back, $350. We're finished. Thank you very much.
That's all, Judge.
What? That's what she gets, her security deposit back. That's it. She gets her security back. She doesn't get rent, doesn't get moving costs, doesn't get damages. She gets her security deposit back. Goodbye. Have a happy life. Have a nice day.
This court is adjourned.
I really thought that everything was fairly normal until just the conversation about me.
A security deposit is the least of my concerns because I don't owe her rent.
Expressing my discomfort with her boyfriend being in the house alone with me.
For her to even mention him harming her in any type of way is not only offensive, but it's disrespectful.
It wasn't like, he was my personal friend or I met him anywhere else. I met him through her, so I just didn't want to be home alone with him.
Honestly, it's outrageous. The implicate that I do anything to her is beyond me.
My safety does come first. I put me first. I gotta put me first.
I wish her nothing but the best away from me.
I thought that the fiancé was absolutely charming.
I did too.
I thought he was such a nice guy.
Visits his mom on Sundays, has a job.
Hard-working, regular, stayed home while his dad was ill. Really a nice guy. But it was clear that he may say my primary residence is with his mother, but that's a visit on Sunday. When he can, he stays with his fiancée in the house. Clearly that was not part of the lease, but forget about that, Sarah. She's a tough broad.
Oh, a little bit of an attitude.
She had a little bit of an attitude. So I don't know.
It's always the nice guys that end up with
somebody with
women with the attitude.
He's got to watch his P's and Q's.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, I'm glad they're happy, and I'm glad that they're together in their apartment, which is probably the way she would prefer it anyway.
Yeah, agreed.
Whitney Shepard is suing motorist Rachel Velasquez for property damage.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, everyone.
Hello, Judge. Case 2098, Shepard versus Velasquez.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, Ms. Velasquez, I'm going to start with you because the case is unusual and the case really starts with you. You were driving your car.
Correct.
And had an accident on the 13th of February of this year.
Right.
Tell me about it.
I was going west on...
You were driving?
I was driving.
First, at what time did this take place on
It
February
happened at about 1 a.m.
Where were you coming from?
From my sister's home.
Anybody else in the car with you?
No.
What day of the week was February 13th?
That was on a Saturday.
So you were at some sort of a gathering at your sister's house?
I was at my sister's house, yes.
How many people were at the gathering?
There was just about maybe 10 of us.
And what time had you arrived at your sister's house?
Saturday, mid-morning.
Did you have dinner there?
Yes.
Any alcohol served all day?
Yes.
What kind?
Just a beer.
I wasn't there.
A beer?
My
beer.
invitation got lost in the mail. What were you drinking?
I had drank 2 beers, but that, again, mind you, it was at the afternoon.
Just a second.
Yes.
So you had 2 beers?
Yes.
Now you get into the car, it's 1 o'clock in the morning, and you're on your way home, and see what happened.
Okay.
A traveling from your sister's house. Maybe I'll make this easier for you. How far a distance is it from your sister's house to your house?
About 20 minutes.
And how far into the trip did this accident occur?
Like 15 minutes.
And tell me about the accident.
Okay, so I seen like a dog or something in the street. So as soon as I seen it.
Just a second. So it's 1 o'clock in the morning, you see something in the street. That's what you said.
Okay, well, it was something, but it turned out to be a dog.
So what did you do?
I swerved to not hit the dog.
Swerved to not hit the something.
But it was a dog.
Well, we're going to get to how you know that. So you swerved to avoid hitting the something, and you went into a house, went over a fire hydrant.
The fire hydrant, actually, when I hit the fire hydrant has pushed me into the house.
Fire hydrant, water, and you went into the house. The force of the fire hydrant didn't send you into the house, madam, unless you're telling me that the fire hydrant went and the water was such force that it pushed your car into the house, which I won't believe. Do you understand? So you swerved to avoid something in the road and were clearly going at such a speed that you went right into a house. Did you go through the wall of the house? That's either a yes or a no.
Yes.
And that's what this case is about, because Miss Shepard is a renter in that house. And she says that everything of value that she had was destroyed because of the water and inundation. And your automobile insurance company paid the owner of the house for the damage to the house, but did not compensate Miss Shepard for any of her property that was destroyed. That's what the case is about. Right. So now this dog becomes sort of interesting. You have a dog?
I do.
Now, you say that you swerved to avoid something that you subsequently said was a dog. Now you're in the house because that's where the car is. I assume that they had to get you out of the car. Or did you get out of the car on your own?
Yeah, my car was not in the house, but I was out of the car. I got out by myself.
Do you have photographs of the house?
I do.
I'd like to take a look at them. Oh, that's pretty much in the house.
Yeah, she went through 2 walls.
Yeah. Do you know how much money your insurance company paid out to the homeowner?
$5,000.
$5,000. Is this your car?
Yes.
And this is where it landed?
Yes.
Okay, now, you got out of the car, and what did you do?
I got out of the car. My sister, she was there too.
What do you mean your sister was there too?
She was following right behind me, because she's the one who she had seen the dog that I swerved to hit. She's seen the dog as well.
I'm talking to you. You got out of the car, and?
I went to walk to get my sister.
And?
And we waited for the ambulance to get there.
For whom?
For me.
What was wrong with you?
I had 3 broken ribs.
Where did you wait for the ambulance?
Right in front of the house.
Now tell me about the dog.
The dog, when the car came to a stop, I seen the dog run back into the yard.
Yeah. So you're crashing into the front of the house. Your eyes are in front of you. You're crashing into a house. You take down the whole wall when you crashed into the house. And what you're telling me is you crashed into the house, and out of what kind of vision? You went through a wall. How did your eyes get to the backyard? You swerve. You go into, either you swerve because there's something in the road, or you swerve because you weren't paying attention, or you swerve because the beers that you had were too late in the day, whatever the reason that you swerved. But now you're facing the inside of a house. I want to know at what point you saw a dog run to the backyard.
Well, the car wasn't, I didn't hit head on. It was on the side. It was on the left side, the right side. It was on the right side. So when I hit it, everything went to the right side. I didn't hit it straight on, head forward.
This is your car.
But I did not hit it straight
This is
head
your
on.
car. So you're telling me your car was damaged before?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Now, I'd like you to tell me, Miss Shepard, I'm sure you have a list of things that were destroyed. You did not have renter's insurance.
I did not.
And what happened when you submitted a claim to Miss Velasquez's insurance company?
Absolutely nothing. They never even got back to me on it.
Okay, I'd like to see proof that your insurance company paid the owner of the house.
I don't have that on me.
You have your insurance card here?
Yes.
Good, I'd like to see it. Did you make a claim?
I did. I did the day on February 14th.
Who owns this car?
I do.
What kind of car were you driving?
It's a 2017 Honda Accord.
Did they pay to have your car fixed?
No.
Did they cover it at all? You had a $500 deductible for collision. Did they pay for your car?
No.
You have medical records?
No, I didn't bring them.
Did the police respond to the location?
Yes.
Were you given a blood alcohol test or a breathalyzer test at the scene?
No.
Do you have a police report?
I do.
I'd like to take a look at it. Okay. Arrived at the scene at 2:30 in the morning. This was determined to be a solo vehicle crash with minor injuries involving an impaired driver. That impaired driver would be you, because she wasn't driving her house. Now, Ms. Velasquez, not good form when the police reports. Do you see the police report? Have you seen the police report?
Yes.
Okay, so you know the police report found that you were impaired at the time of the accident. It also indicates that the police officer immediately after the accident questioned you on a gurney in the hospital. And that was immediately after this happened. I'm going to read what it says. Party 1, Velasquez, is riding her Honda at 55 miles per hour while under the influence. It says at the time of your statement, Party 1, that's you, states she attempted to turn left because she was heading to her mother's house, but did not recall how she crashed. Certainly don't see anything about a dog here, only an impaired driver. Okay, and then later you told this police officer that you admitted drinking 3 beers early at her home. Police officer said he asked you whether you felt the effects of alcohol drinks, to which you replied yes. The officer conducted a limited number of field sobriety tests at the hospital, which Party 1 failed to perform. Party 1's objective signs and symptoms of intoxication, and you were placed under arrest.
No, ma'am.
Yeah, I placed Party 1, that's you, under arrest for DUI. This police officer determined that you were drunk, and this police report has absolutely nothing about a dog causing the accident. It has you saying, I don't know what caused the accident.
Whitney Shepard claims motorist Rachel Velasquez owes for property and water damage after Rachel's car ran over a fire hydrant and crashed into Whitney's home.
Something just came through my house. My house exploded. I'm stuck in here. I don't know what's going on. There is a car in my house. Oh my God. They hit the fire hydrant. They went through my house. I no longer have a house.
Okay. Did you receive a citation?
No, I did not.
You didn't?
No, ma'am.
Really?
No.
Well, then you want me to assume that when the police officer said that he placed you under arrest, and I can understand why they didn't remove you from the hospital, that you were subsequently given a citation, but you had to receive some sort of citation from the police, madam, unless you have medical records which indicate that the blood that they drew indicated that there was no alcohol in your system, because this police officer determined that you were drunk. And this police report has absolutely nothing about a dog causing the accident. It has you saying, I don't know what caused the accident. Yes. Okay. Ms. Shepard.
Yes.
The defendant is responsible for the damages done to your property. And so I've seen the extent of this damage done to the house. Were you able to stay in the house subsequent to this crash?
No.
Where did you go?
I got relocated to Corona. I'm renting a room in Corona.
And had you been renting the whole house?
Yes. Yes.
For how long?
10 years.
And what was your rent on the house?
$7.15 a month.
And in the 10 years that you lived there, you accumulated all your stuff?
Well, that and time before I lived there, but yes.
But for 10 years?
For 10 years,
Were you
yes.
able to take any of your furniture?
I got 3 pieces of furniture, which included my mattress.
That was okay?
It was okay.
Okay.
And I got an armoire that is ruined at the bottom from the water, and a dresser that was ruined from the water.
The rest of the furniture in the house, did it belong to you?
It did.
Okay. So you had a table, chairs, eating?
Table and chairs, no couch. It was a small house, 457 square feet.
What about your clothes?
I have not seen my clothes since the day the accident happened.
Did the water infiltrate the house as a result of the fire hydrant?
Yes. I was trapped in that house for 4.5 hours. Me and my dog were trapped in the house for 4.5 hours. My dog was in bed with me, sleeping.
When you left to rent this room, did you take anything with you?
Well, the night the accident happened, when I was trapped for 4.5 hours, I was hiding because the fire hydrant was throwing big rocks onto the roof, and I thought the whole house was coming down. But I kept coming out and filling a backpack with things my grandchildren had given me and pictures of my grandchildren. I didn't even think to take clothes or anything out.
And you went right there to some place where you were relocated? Did you
Yeah,
go
I
to
was
a relative?
relocated immediately. It was red tagged, and it took 68 days to get a yellow tag so I could hire a company.
Do you know how much the landlord got for the damage on this house?
She had insurance, and she's rebuilding right now.
So she had her own insurance?
She had her own insurance, yeah.
Okay, Ms. Velasquez, there's no question in my mind that your mind is fresher at the time of the incident than it is months and months later when you've had a chance to reflect on why an accident is not your fault. You were questioned by police officers immediately after the incident. You responded, actually, to the police officers and told them what happened and told them that you crashed and you didn't know why. The police officers observed your demeanor. They determined that you were operating a vehicle under the influence of alcohol. I don't know whether you have insurance or not. I don't know whether you had insurance on the date of the incident or not. But by your careless and reckless behavior, you've turned this lady's life upside down. She had a little life in a little house where she had all of her property, and you've turned her life totally upside down. She has nothing. And you're responsible for that. So if you had no insurance or if the insurance disclaimed, that would be your problem. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount requested, $10,000. We're finished.
Thank you.
This court is adjourned.
I think it was the correct decision, as it really could be the only decision.
I remember seeing the dog going through, but yeah, it was an accident.
I thought my house exploded, and I was in a house that was going to come down with my dog.
Luckily, I didn't hurt anybody.
I think anybody who would drink and drive isn't willing to take responsibility for their actions.
You know, sometimes you're the windshield and sometimes you're a bug. Sometimes you're both.
As in this case.
That's really a trick. I have no idea what that insurance is.
A lot of fine print, I'm feeling, was probably the issue.
Yeah, but I cannot imagine if it was legitimate insurance, and she had legitimate insurance, except that she's got a $10,000 maximum on any sort of collision. Mm-hmm. So I don't know what it is. I actually feel sorry for that lady, don't you?
Me too. Everything in 500 square feet in a home that she's built.
And she's comfortable. She was comfortable in that.
No, exactly.
She has nothing. And I didn't see a whole bunch of remorse there.
Nope, me neither.
Các bạn ơi, hôm nay thì mình sẽ tô màu cho bức tranh về cô gái này nhé. Mọi người hãy cùng mình theo dõi để xem là chúng ta sẽ hoàn thiện trong bức tranh này như thế nào nha. Bây giờ thì mình sẽ tô màu mái tóc và chiếc nơ kẹp tóc rất là xinh nhé. Bây giờ thì mình sẽ tô màu cho chiếc áo nhé. Quạt. Giờ mình sẽ tô nốt chiếc váy để hoàn thiện cho bức tranh nha. Bức tranh của mình cũng đã được hoàn thiện và đây chính là thành quả nha. Cảm ơn mọi người đã cùng mình đón xem video. Xin chào và hẹn gặp lại các bạn ở những video tiếp theo của mình nhé. Bye bye.